It's like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurewitz behind the controls.
That's correct.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sounds like Shona knife. Never feel though I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you and do the things we do. Stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta ride. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night.
R.I.P. Todd.
Text the round robin your questions, comments, wagers. Give us a reason. Sleeper fantasy play, your best alternative line, whatever you have. Text the round robin 757 354 5517.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us past our spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
You are tuned in to the Round Robin with Stephen Murray on Deep End Broadcasting.
Still singing Bible night before my praises on the bed. Way up ahead, I see the crowd and flashing red lights. I'd rather see the college outside.
The hearty tones of the Pie Tasters kick off this Saturday NFL Divisional Special here on the Round Robin. I am Stephen Murray, and this is your look at the NFL slate for this afternoon and this evening here on the Deep End Broadcasting Network, broadcasting live from our lovely Chicks Beach studios in the United States of America. I am Stephen Murray. I am your host. It is a by the way, the Pie Tasters, if you happen to be on the in Texas, I believe they're playing in Austin. I think they played in San Antonio last night. I think they play in Austin, and I think they play in Dallas. Let me see if I can get that information for you. But the Pie Tasters in Texas, if you're in any of those cities tuning in, go check them out while they're in town. That's a rare occurrence to have our house band of the Deep End Broadcasting Network to be swinging through Texas. Good morning, wherever you are in this universe. Pacific time, you're at 6 a.m. You're probably, if you are an early riser, it's hard for you to catch the beginning of our program normally, but coming to you at this 9 o'clock Eastern special start time, since we have to reduce the schedule, you're able to probably tune in a little bit easier if you're on the West Coast. And of course, all of our thoughts are for everybody still out there dealing with the wildfires. In fact, Christopher Murray, my brother, I think is getting forced back to the East Coast because of his house and the not immediate danger, but I believe the owner of the house had her house burned down, and she said to take a hike. You have 60 days to get on out of here, and why not get out? Apparently really hard to get a moving van in California as well, as everybody is getting out of that state. Okay, and they will be represented with the Rams, a local team here in the playoffs. Tomorrow afternoon, they'll be at Philadelphia. The slate tomorrow includes the Ravens and the Bills, and then our focus mainly today will be the two games this afternoon and this evening with the Texans and the Chiefs and the Commanders and the Lions, which should be a fun Saturday night game, especially if you're here regionally where we are. A lot of Commander fans. I bet the bars will be packed. Probably a fun night to actually go out on the town. We may have to still soak this into the sports lounges. We're always working and to do the show properly. And if you are new to the show for the first time, I'll kind of discuss that right now, what we're all about. Again, hard for me to get out. And I think where this strategy of mine to stop going out on Sundays, Sunday fun day, having fun, getting hammered, partying with the friends, all that. I miss it greatly and tremendously. But where we've been able to sit here and focus on all the games, play all the games, not get distracted, live bet, play situationally, some good numbers at times, and just be able to learn for weeks ahead, which have paid off on tickets. The fact that we've sat in the sports lounge and have focused on things has been so beneficial to us. In fact, for you guys as well, if you've been tagging along, we come off with a huge wild card winner. Probably sent a little bit more back than we wanted to, just because we were firing on a wild card weekend once we got a nice hit. But we did take our risk-free $100 bet last weekend. And this is kind of the gist of our game out there, people. And I'll kind of explain a little bit more into that here in a second. But I had 3 players, all for 25 yards receiving, right? That's not hard. That's literally, catch the ball and run across your backyard in some cases. It's not far, 25 yards. So it was a risk-free bet, which means I would get back the amount of money I bet up to $100 in free bets, which the free bet is literally anything you want to bet on. There's no strings attached to that. So we went ahead and bet the maximum of the 100. And for those 3 players to get 25 yards receiving, we went ahead and got a payout of 59-1. So $5,900, I think, was the payout. I guess it was 58-1 plus the $100 back on the initial investment. But we had Troy Franklin. We played it all in the Buffalo-Denver game, thinking that would be the highest scoring game. And Troy Franklin, right out of the gate, got his on the bomb. So that was locked in, and that was easy. Curtis Samuel chipped away. And in the second half, had that long catch. I think even before that, though, before that long catch for the touchdown, what we had is our other player, Ty Johnson, actually get close to his. So he would be second in line, Ty Johnson, although Curtis Samuel probably had 2 catches for like 14 yards, I think is what it was. So he only needed 11 to get us past the 25. But Ty Johnson had that long touchdown where that knee was barely in bounds. They counted it, not controversial, because once the knee hits, the play is over. It doesn't matter about the foot or not. And he was able to get 24 yards right there, not 25, which is heartbreaking because you think you know what happens next, is that everyone gets 25 and you get left 1 yard short, and it's a loser. So he's stuck at 24. Then Curtis Samuel gets the long bomb, where he looks like he's another great play again this week. We'll get into that as we go out through the programming this weekend. But Curtis Samuel got way past his 25 yards. Then all we needed was that one Ty Johnson catch. And Josh Allen's been known to throw the screen pass on game-sealing drives, not necessarily just run it and end it. Literally kind of put the dagger in you if he can. And we got to a 3rd and 1 opportunity, and it looked for the life that it was probably going to be a run. Except I remember seeing the circumstance with him before. So I was thinking we probably have one last shot at this somewhere. And this is around the 4-minute mark. So they're trying to wind down the clock. There's no reason to pass, literally, at this point in the game. It's so out of hand with Buffalo and Denver. So what happens? You kind of fake the handoff. Ty Johnson goes right into the right flats. Josh Allen maybe scrambles a hair to the right, decides to throw it to Johnson on a nice catch for 2 yards, and he is tackled. And there we go. Ty Johnson, 25 yards. What we had to beg for after that is don't get the negative screenplay. They actually tried one more pass to somebody else who got almost a loss of yardage. I think that was Curtis Samuel again, maybe. But it wouldn't have mattered if he got negative yards. But we're begging for the anti-bad beat of Ty Johnson getting tackled in the backfield for a loss of 3 or something ridiculous like that. So we get home, and we hit a 59-1 odds little free play, and that $100 turns into $6K. How about that? How about that for wild card weekend and to free roll here through the playoffs? And that's what we do, guys. We don't try to get straight up bets. We do. I can give you a straight up bet, and I do like to bet some things straight if we're rolling pretty good. But we will definitely do our 3 or 4 game parlays. The moral of the story is this: is you can do just what I told you. On a smaller scale is what we usually do. Don't get me wrong. We're not throwing hundreds around left and right. Really, just $100 bets happen on the free plays. Some special circumstances other than that as well. Like, probably have something close to that just for the wild card games this weekend for a big payout. But we'll go through all that as we go. But we can turn our $10, $15, $20 into $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 legitimately. Okay. And by the time, let's say you win one of those bets for, let's just say $5,000 off of $10. Well, now you can lose 500 times before you are in the negative with that. Okay. So we believe and we know, and it seems to be working on the program because we win a lot. And that is well within the time frame of 5,000. I venture to say we win within 50 times, much less 5,000. We'll win within the next 50 picks. We'll hit something and keep the train going for the positive. The Ants man, I think, hit something last week. I think he got a little something, and nephew Dave actually tailed me on my bet with the 25-yard receivers. So he got a nice little hit, I think, himself. All right, so a good weekend for the studio overall, and that is the gist of our game. Let's invest the minimum to make the maximum. So the way that this program will run down is I'll go over the lines updated. We'll talk about the weather a little bit associated with those games because I think we definitely have some. And if you've been listening to sports radio and gambling stuff all week, you probably have your opinions formed, but we need to take a few things into consideration, and the weather is definitely a main part of that. We'll get on our man, Dave Del Grande. We'll bring him on here in just a couple of minutes. He's from Castro Valley, California. He covers the Golden State Warriors, right? That's an NBA team, Steve. That's not an NFL team. Well, Dave Del Grande has been in the San Francisco Bay Area for many and many of years. He came back. He was on my podcast as a guest back in 2008. All right, so that's how long this show stretches from. Again, if you are new to the show, I am a longtime broadcaster, sports wagerer, and sports bookmaker, and on the management side of things for a combined, media and the bookmaking and the betting is 63 years. Go ahead and add 35 years on top with the media as well. So almost 100 years combined experience between the three. All right, so that gives, I'm not some schlep up here on the stage here. We got some legitimate resumes going on as far as what we can produce for content, as opposed to a lot of other people out there on the internet doing their thing. So what we do, we'll get Del Grande on, yes, expert at the NFL, and we'll go through everything with him. He contributes to Deadspin. He covers the Warriors, writes for Field Level Media, senior analyst at Stat Factor, MrFantasy.com himself. And then we'll go ahead and bring on my man Nick Athen, boots on the ground in Kansas City. That's the first game, 8.5, 41.5. Nick is with the ChiefsBlitz.com and PrimetimeSportsTalk.com as well. And Nick is a seasoned veteran with journalism and the Kansas City Chiefs. He was my actual boss for one of my first gigs, in which I was the AFC beat reporter for the Warpaint Illustrated magazine back about 20 years ago. So Nick Athen, my former boss, we'll get him on the show and get to take from the Kansas City perspective, boots on the ground with their game against the Texans, 4:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff for that. Nephew Dave's a Commanders fan. I bet you he has a feelings like he hasn't had in a long, long time going through his body this morning, as are other Commander fans. And Commander fans, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment on my post. I know many of you are my friends. So we'd love to hear your take on today's game. The text hotline is fired up as well. 757-354-5517. 757-354-5517. That number is on the screen. I'll put up some tickets for the games today and tomorrow. We'll get those up here when Del Grande gets going. And then I'll go ahead and prove my winner ticket to you. We like to post the winners just so you can see those as well. That way, we're not talking smack up here. All right, so the games today, the Chiefs 8.5, 41.5, and we're looking at temperatures in the teens. It looks like somewhere around 20. It is cold. We're having a double dose of a cold front, Arctic winter blast going through the midsection of the country. It'll be here in coastal Virginia here in a couple of days. Snowstorms even expected for us, it looks like. And Kansas City, although no precipitation, will be a very cold venue for CJ Stroud and company. That line is now down, right? 41.5. I believe that was at 43.5 at one point. So that line is down for this afternoon. And this evening, we have the Lions indoors with the Commanders, 9.5 for Detroit, 55.5 there. Commanders with the doink field goal advanced past Tampa Bay last week. Detroit gets a much-needed bye to rest their players, and what Campbell come up with this time off? He'll come up with something against Washington. Jaden Daniels, second playoff game, this time in a much different environment than Tampa Bay. This will be a loud Detroit stadium. They're going to have all day to tailgate. Any of my Detroit fans, if you're tuning in, let me know what's going on up there this afternoon. Hopefully you're, I know a couple of Detroit people. Maybe I'll even try to reach out, see if we can get one on before the end of the program. But the Lions and the Commanders, that is probably the game of the day, at least regionally here. Everyone very excited for that. I think I have a simple game plan for that. And just beware, Washington, a little bit. Because if this ground game gets going for the Lions, I don't know if they'll get off it. And is 55.5 too many points in that regard? It may be. I mean, my opinion's ever changing on these games. So you might hear some back and forth stuff from me, at least, on the side of Detroit and even on Washington, as I try to really decide what to do here. But I think we get a strong ground game presence. That is just my gut feeling right now on the part of Detroit. Tomorrow, the Rams and the Eagles. Snow for that game, potentially 4 to 5 inches. We're looking at 43.5 is the total, 6.5 for the Eagles. Now, if it's a snow fest, it's going to go under, people. So I would maybe project that number to plummet even below 40 if it gets to be too bad up there. We shall see. The Rams, again, representing Southern California. The Eagles at home, long day to tailgate, tough atmosphere. Again, we said this last week, Eagle fans. Don't be mean to the Green Bay Packer fans. And sure enough, we see this viral video all week long of the Philly fan guy who called the girl a cunt. I can say that on my program. But he called the girl the C word. And that didn't go over too well. He lost his job. Ironically, his job was for a diversity and inclusion. You can't make this stuff up. A diversity and inclusion company. And he calls the girl a cunt in the stands, and he gets fired from his job after that post goes viral. So, Philly fans, be nice to the Ram fans, please. Okay? You're on video. Don't act stupid. No one needs to go to a football game and get into a fight. Nobody cares that bad. I know you want to, but let's just chill out, all right? And tomorrow night, the Ravens are a favorite in Buffalo, -1.5 at 51.5, and we could have snow for that. It says 20% chance, but with that lake effect snow in Buffalo, I mean, 20% is more like a 50-50 shot, you got to figure. So we'll pay closer attention to that as well. All right, let's get right to it. We need to get our man Dave Del Grande on here. We got people reaching out already. My man, the True Allah, 4th and 1 Enterprise LLC. Good to see you, True Allah, that you're tuning in from New Haven, Connecticut. Let's see what he likes today. Derrick Henry for a first touchdown. David Montgomery for a first touchdown. Jameson Williams for 4 catches. Jaden Daniels, 55 yards rushing, and a bonus NBA play. Double doubles by Evan Mobley, and is it Amir Thompson, I think? I would have to clarify that. But double doubles by Thompson and Mobley. But I love the football picks. Daniels for 55 yards. Williams for 4 receptions. Montgomery and Henry both for the first touchdown, and Henry for an anytime touchdown. All right, so send us your picks. We got the text number on the screen. You can post on the social media, whatever the case may be. All right, let's send it out to Castro Valley, California. Our man who covers the Golden State Warriors. He is a senior analyst at Stat Factor. He is the founder of Mr. Fantasy himself, and a contributor to Deadspin. Field level media is his main job as a columnist. Let's bring on our man, Dave Del Grande. All right, Dave, let's start with the teams first that lost last week, and maybe what we can kind of forecast for their offseason going into next season. And we'll just go in chronological order from the beginning to the end. I definitely overrated the Chargers in their trenches. That's where they lost the game to the Texans to me. You said it for the most part of the season that they're the most overrated good team or considered good team. So you pegged them pretty well. I probably gave them a little bit more credit than what they were due at the end of the day. Justin Herbert with a dud. But I think for at least from their standpoint, in the first year for Harbaugh, I think they are heading at least in a positive direction. So your take on the Chargers first.
Well, I agree with the fact that they seem to be an up-and-coming team. You have to consider the fact that they haven't done anything for several years. And so basically this was a start over. First thing Harbaugh did when he went in there was get rid of his two top receivers, get rid of his top running back. I mean, just start over basically behind a quarterback. They beefed up their lines, or they tried to. I mean, it got them to a level that was better than what they'd been before. And now I think they just need to start filling in at some of the skill positions. They certainly have the quarterback, but they don't have much of a running game.
Right.
McConkey, was an early draft pick last year, came on and had a very good season, but was really their only weapon on the outside. And so, but the goal was, let's solidify the lines. Let's become more like the Michigan program. And I think that was a success. I think the problem in the playoff game, I thought that Herbert played a terrible game.
Right.
He just, I don't get it. I mean, for a team that's supposed to be conservative, he's winging the ball
across the field, all the way back across the
crazy.
field. Yeah, that was bad.
Oh my goodness,
that was bad.
I mean, it's I thought going in he had an opportunity to run the ball effectively. He did. He never took advantage of that. Instead, he scrambled and then he threw crazy Mahomes-type passes right to the other team. I just thought that was, I mean, he was embarrassingly bad, I thought, in that game. And hopefully he's learned a lesson from that. We see this in all sports. You don't just make the playoffs and win a championship. You make the playoffs and you lose. And the next year you come back and you make the playoffs and you win a game or two and you lose. And then you come back a couple of years later and then, you have a chance to win a championship. So maybe this was the type of learning experience for him that he really needed. And now next year when they come back and make the playoffs with a better team, and maybe he's better set to have a good game in that first playoff game, and maybe they win that.
All right, the Steelers, we got to figure they got plenty of question marks in their offseason. Their offensive line's been bad forever. Their defense can only do so much. They're even limited in the skill position, and they definitely don't know what they're going to do in that quarterback for the future. In fact, they're talking about I don't know who you're going to get better, but obviously you're hearing some about Tomlin perhaps moving on at some point. You got to figure that won't be this offseason. But they've set the record here for playoff losses, I think 8 now in a row. They haven't won a playoff game. And they, again, a good call by you. They're overrated to some extent. They were hot out of the gate, play their best football the first 3 quarters of the season or so, and then once they hit that skid, they're never able to correct themselves. So they go 360 off the runway, and never really even in contention in their playoff game, down 21 zip out of the gate. So a lot of teams have questions who aren't even in the playoffs. I venture to say the Steelers have just as many.
Yeah, well, first off, I'd be shocked if the coach went anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
The one thing you can count on for the Steelers for the last 50 years is that they'd have the same coach the next year.
3 coaches total.
Right, exactly. So that's not about to happen. And defensively, they're fine.
Right.
So they're set to have, at least a decent season next year. Where they really need help, obviously, is on offense. And like you said, so much of it is in the offensive line. This team has to run the ball. And they have decent running backs. Now, I don't know that both of them are going to be back next year, but that's fine. If it means Warren gets more carries because Harris isn't around anymore, I don't think that's going to hurt the team at all. But they need to be a better running team because they're not going to have a good quarterback next year. I mean, I don't care who it is, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Fields, or God knows who else it could be. It's not going to be a good quarterback. So they have to be able to run the ball. And now Pickens is unhappy that they're not a good passing team. Well, that's just what the Steelers are. They're not a good passing team. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not around next year. They already got rid of Deontay Johnson, and which just means they're really going to have to be a better running team next year than they were this year. And so, I mean, if I were them, I would, I'd use my first couple of draft picks on the best possible linemen available and go from there.
It looks like they can have Deontay Johnson back if they really want to at this point. Okay. Broncos, you got to put them in the same boat as the Chargers, right? Let's be happy we made the playoffs. That's a win from our standpoint for a franchise. We look like we're moving the right direction too. So let's fill in the pieces, see what we got to do to be a better team and a better contender. But considering everything that happened last year with Peyton in his first year with Russell Wilson, getting jettisoned off and them eating up that salary, they got to be enthusiastic with everything this season, right?
I agree. And it starts with the quarterback. I mean,
they have one.
They didn't have one of the top picks last
year. Now he may regress, but for now it looks like it's smart move.
Oh yeah, but I think the coach. I think he's a real good coach. I think he's a good fit for the quarterback. He allowed him in his rookie season to. He didn't put handcuffs on the guy. He recognized we were not a good running team. So we're going to have to throw the ball, and they did so very effectively, considering the fact that A, they didn't have much of a running game. B, they had a rookie quarterback, and even their wideouts. I mean, they just got rid of Judy, so they didn't exactly have the best wideouts in the league. I thought they had a really good season in terms of, establishing now that this is. They can build around this young quarterback. It would really help them if they improve their running game. And if you look at Peyton, when he coached New Orleans and they had the great pass catching back there, that would really help the quarterback as well. And so again, if I were them, I would look for some kind of all-purpose back,
right?
Because I think their young receivers played well. Their tight ends were like the worst in the league, so maybe they could pick up one of them because they're becoming more in vogue in the NFL, and that helps your quarterback as well. But their young receivers played well. Their young quarterback played great, and their lines were fine. I just think that. This looks like an up-and-coming team.
You said something interesting a minute ago. Actually, I was thinking about this last night in terms of me and you and our discussions in the past. And it seemed like 4 or 5 years, or less than that, just a couple years ago, these running backs were devalued so much. It's all about the passing game. It's all about the passing game. We don't need to pay these running backs. But you've seen what a good running back has done this year. There's no shortage of good running backs. We could go down the whole list if you really wanted to, that have showed that they have value. In fact, big game this weekend with Detroit and Washington. We'll get to that. But the running backs are going to be premium in that circumstance, in my opinion. But it's kind of almost flipped a little bit. You kind of said it yourself, too. Some of these receivers are replaceable now. You got these guys coming out of college who are very talented. So the wide receiver pool is depth. It's almost like if I'm sitting next to you 20 years ago, 20 years in the future, I can say to you, hey, can you believe back 23 years ago how much they devalued the running back and how much he's worth nowadays? So interesting to see the running back stock kind of go up here in the last couple of seasons, to me anyway.
Oh, yes, and like you said, there was incredible amount of quality movement among running backs going into this season, and you just didn't know, how were these guys going to fit into the new teams? They looked like they were a good match. It looked like, man, you put Henry on Baltimore, he could have a big season. Even though he seemed to be on a downhill slide. You put Barkley on Philadelphia. Oh, what a perfect setup that would be. But you wondered, did he have anything left? You got Joe Mixon joining Houston. Green Bay gets a new back. Minnesota gets a new back. I mean, it was just and every one of these teams I mentioned was a very good team. So, perhaps it's no coincidence that, you want, like you said, some teams are giving up on backs thinking that they're out of vogue, and other teams are saying, oh, boy, you're jumping the gun. You want to give us Barkley. You want to give us Henry. We'll take them in a heartbeat. It'd be interesting to see this offseason, if there's that kind of movement. I can't believe there would be, because there was so much movement last year that you got 10 teams now that had problems at running back last year that don't have problems anymore. But that still leaves 10 to 15 teams out there that could really use an upgrade at running back. It's going to be interesting to see if they can find that within the league, because this is not a position that's developing talent in college. You don't see, you see who were the best running backs in college this year.
Yeah, it's a kid from Boise State, of all places.
Exactly.
Right.
And some unknown guy at Arizona State, who breaks tackles. I mean, neither one of those guys looks to me like, man, I got to get that guy in the first round. He's our answer at running back. Well, boy, no. I don't, give me a fourth rounder, with some speed, someone, third stringer from Texas who, is probably as good a running back as most, first stringers across the country. But yeah, so I think that, I do think that this season has changed a lot of minds in terms of, what we can do at the running back position. Like, the question now, though, is where do you find these guys? You can find these guys all over the place in college and wide receivers, but not running back.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be something to look forward to going down the road. Guys like James Conner, as good as they aren't getting any younger. All right, let's pick up with our teams that were eliminated last week. My biggest concern for Green Bay is, well, I think I know what Jordan Love is. I just think he's a good but not great quarterback. And I think along with that, just the question marks about how good he is, how they're able to handle those next season. They have skill positions. They have defense. You can kind of get on LaFleur with his play calling a little bit here last week. But the Packers were banged up thoroughly. They lost everyone in that receiver core basically by the end of that game against the Eagles. Still were somewhat in it to the end of the day. Even when they play bad, they still seem like they're in games. But here come the barrage of questions from all around about Jordan Love. You're wondering if that will wear on them at some point. So that would be my question going forward with them. And they probably, I guess, will try to find at least a decent backup to kind of maybe give them that push, the motivational push. So your thought on the Packers?
Well, my thought on the Packers is they don't play a style that's conducive to winning in the playoffs. They're a downfield throwing team that used to be able to win doing that. But look at the teams that are left this year. How many of them are throwing the ball downfield?
Yeah.
Having the quarterback hold the ball 4 or 5 seconds and throw the ball downfield, and with a quarterback who's not mobile. I mean, so it's like this is not the way teams are winning these days. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's just. And as the weather gets worse and colder in the playoffs, it becomes harder to connect downfield, to get downfield with any kind of speed. It just doesn't seem to me like it's a good fit. But I don't blame Love for that. I mean, that's his strength. He's had decent regular seasons, like you said. The Packers have, more than their fair share of talented receivers. So, and they now have a really good running back as well. So they have the skill people to be successful. But it's I don't know. It's just we've seen this a lot in the NFL. You get into the playoffs and the Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes style, throw the ball short, move the chains. Is what's been successful in the last 2 decades. And that's not Green Bay style at all.
Right. Yep. I have a feeling running is going to be a big theme on the show when we get the picks. Tampa Bay, I feel like they're on a decent path too. I mean, they got Baker locked in where we had big question marks last year. They answered all those in last offseason. They're going to have Evans back. They got talented young players at the skill with Irving, even backup of Cade Otton. They got the kid Payne Durham, who seems like he's going to be a good tight end. So my feeling is they're just going to sell out in a draft and free agency with defense and really try to get that side of the ball right. Maybe get Baker another toy. That division is always winnable from season to season, and you got to have the feeling they have a leg up on all their competitors still right now. They'll make off-season moves, but you saw the Falcons try that with Cousins, and that didn't work out. So now it's on the Penix, and Carolina still has steps to take, you figure. The Saints are about of let's start from square one as any other team could possibly be, really. So the Buccaneers, good thing going. Let's shore up the defense. We'll get in the playoffs next year, most likely, and we'll give it another shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, they're set at the skill position. And remember, they didn't even have Godwin this year. And McMillan came on, did so well. And, of course, Evans is incredible. They got a tight end now. They got 2 running backs now. And the quarterback was phenomenal this year. I mean, they've got the offense all set. You're right. They need serious help on defense. And that's where they need to focus their attention. And in that division, without a defense, you can still be a 500 team and be competitive and win the division. Now you start putting a defense with that offense, and you could really dominate that division.
All right, and then the Vikings, they went out as ugly as they did against Detroit. I mean, just back-to-back bad losses. That was a Sam Darnold special in a way. We asked that question all season long. When is the bad Sam Darnold going to show up? And certainly it was there in the last couple of weeks when it mattered the most. That's going to be the big imprint at everybody's mind. It was bad enough where you got to think, even if you want to blame the line, which they should take a huge part of the blame. To me, even Darnold is going to probably play a scapegoat at the end of the day. They'll go on to McCarthy and try other things, and Darnold will find himself on the Saints or some other team next year. Who knows? But the Vikings, they went out atrociously. They need to work on their line. They'll have a rookie at quarterback. That injury, maybe to McCarthy, I don't know if it stunts them a season or not, but an ugly finish. They have more work to do next season. I don't think they're an automatic for the playoffs next year.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could argue that, look, they got that far and they had Darnold at quarterback.
Right, yeah.
I mean, who would guess
you can't argue
with
that.
Darnold at quarterback, you could have that kind of a season. Because like you said, this is what we're used to with Darnold. This was no surprise. It was a surprise based on what had happened previously this season, but no surprise based on what had happened previously in his career. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands, because there are not a lot of opportunities out there for quarterbacks. And, you know, the couple of teams that need them are drafting high. And I can't think of the team that's going to, you know, that's going to be willing to pay him. You know, and obviously he lost a lot of money the last couple of weeks, but
right.
I don't see him getting a long-term contract anywhere. It's almost like he's back to square one, and like, you know what, he needs to join a team as a backup quarterback and hope he gets a shot, and then kind of, you know, reestablish who he is. I think there's a perfect team for him to land on if I were him. And you know, who knows whether they'd even be interested in you know, a backup quarterback. But to me, if I were him, I'd love to land on Miami, because Miami is a great offensive team. They've got they're kind of a lot like Minnesota. They've got a lot of weapons. And Miami's got a questionable quarterback.
Right.
You know,
right.
we don't even know for sure that Tua's coming back to play next year, let alone the first hit he gets in the preseason.
Right.
And now he decides to retire. I mean, this team desperately needs a serious step in, you know, Daniel Jones type of backup quarterback, because they can't go through what they did this year with the backup guys that they had. And so that might be the perfect spot for Darnold. I mean, if he jumped in there with those weapons, you know, he'd have a chance to, you know, resurrect his career. And it ain't going to be in Minnesota. Minnesota is ready to move on with McCarthy. They were ready to move on with McCarthy before, I think, as well, once they saw how good he was. I think Minnesota, I think they're in obviously they're in a tough division. If Chicago gets better, it's even going to be a tougher division. But Minnesota's got a lot of good pieces. They've developed other receiver weapons to go with Jefferson. They got a nice running back. They just, they've got a really good defense. And now I think they're going to have, McCarthy is the style of quarterback that's been successful in the NFL. We saw this at Michigan. They run a very NFL type offense with a lot of short passes, a lot of balls to the tight end. And Minnesota's got a great pass catching tight end. They got a great pass catching back. I mean, they got a ton of weapons there to work with. So I think Minnesota is going to be just fine.
Okay. Let's see here. We'll talk coaches here just for a second. Obviously you like offensive minds and, for teams. But the Patriots give Vrabel, he comes home. No offensive coordinator yet by him, but you got to figure he's going to go a decent route. Do you like the hiring by Vrabel?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, right.
Him going home there. I'm not sure. I mean, New England's got a lot of work to do. You didn't realize at the time how much of their success revolved around the quarterback. And Drake May might be a good quarterback, but he certainly ain't going to be Brady. And so they're going to have to be better at the other positions than they were, back in the day. And that's not going to be easy either. So I don't see New England necessarily being a factor for several years, even in a division where you've got Buffalo obviously is going to be there, but what's the future for the Jets and what's the future for the Dolphins? And so the door is kind of open there to have some success as a number 2 team, but I don't see New England challenging for that division title anytime soon.
What about the Cowboys? I see Kellen Moore's name on the list. I see Dion. Obviously, McCarthy's gone. Parting on the mutual decision. So how about Dallas here? What do you think they'd be wise to do?
Well, I think they'd be wise to shoot for the top. I mean, Dallas is a very, very good team. Dallas has as much talent, in my opinion, as any other team in the league. They just need, to keep it together. And with Dallas, kind of like the Yankees, you create a list. Forget about thinking about who's available. You create a list of guys who you would want as your coach, and you make contact with them, whether they've got jobs or not. And if I were Dallas, I'd start off a list with Peyton Manning, see if Peyton and Eli Manning want to come and co-coach the team, or one guy runs the offense, one guy runs the defense. I'd look at Jason Kelsey. Another up and coming. He's going to be a big time player in the NFL moving forward. He's already, everything he's touched has turned to gold. But in college football, to me, Notre Dame has the best coach.
Yeah, he's good.
If you could hire Notre Dame's coach, he's got to be like number 1 on Dallas's list.
Mm-hmm.
To talk him out of Notre Dame, and if he came and coached Dallas, we'll see how this year plays out. But I would make them at least a co-favorite to win the NFC next year. And I just think that think big, as big as you can, and do not hire a coordinator and move him up to be head coach, and have him continue to be coordinator. Terrible ideas. It works for some guys, very few of them. It's like in any business out there, just because somebody is good at their role in their business doesn't mean they'll be good as the boss. They keep them in the role where they've been successful. And this is what makes Pete Carroll attractive. Is Pete Carroll will come in and he's not going to call defense. He's not going to call the offense. He's going to be like Lombardi. He's going to be like Belichick. He's going to be the boss and let the offensive and defensive coordinators do their job. And so, no, Ben Johnson, no, some of these other coordinators, no, they're good coordinators. You're Dallas. You should be able to hire Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator, not as your head coach. Your head coach needs to be the cream of the crop. And like I said, to me, you start out by calling the Mannings. And you call Kelsey, you call the Notre Dame coach. You have Carroll as your 4th or 5th.
How about Nick Saban?
Well, I don't think he's interested, but that's a very good choice.
Would you even throw Urban Meyer back on that list?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
That's a little
He
different,
used to be, he's a little more been there, done that.
Right.
I do, there are up and comers who aren't necessarily, coordinators. Why would you hire Peyton Manning as your head coach? You really think Peyton Manning would do a bad job? With all of his knowledge and experience in the game. And like I said, bring him in and just let him, you've got Peyton Manning as your head coach. Now he can reach out and bring in real attractive assistant coaches. Problem with Dion, I like Dion, but I'm not sure people are going to want to work with him.
Right.
And that, that to me is a big thing. As much you've got to. This is, I mentioned this to somebody that if I were Pete Carroll, I would go out there and I would align myself with a great defensive coach and a great offensive coach. And when you interview for a job, all of a sudden they're not looking at this 73-year-old guy. And what can he do for us? You're looking at, hey, there's the three of us. I got Peyton coaching the offense. I got Eli coaching the defense, and we got me. You get the three of us together. And now all of a sudden that becomes a lot more attractive than, let's bring in this, the offensive coordinator from Detroit who has no coaching experience. No. Shoot for the best. Dallas, I think, can and will, come away from this, I think, with a very, very high profile coach.
Apparently, Ben Johnson is kind of, maybe recluse isn't the right word, but kind of introverted, not an extrovert, kind of keeps to himself a little bit. And that's kind of known now that, this guy probably is just a better coordinator than a head coach. At least I've heard some of that. Have you?
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
To be a great offensive coordinator, look at the publicity he's gotten by being the offensive coordinator. Now, you become the head coach, you make a lot more money, but there's no reason for, if you're that good, especially, a deep pocket team like the Cowboys, if the Cowboys came to him and said, we'd like you to be our offensive coordinator, instead of considering that to be a slap in the face, your first question should be, okay, how much you're paying me? And we'll pay you $4 million a year. Well, gee, that's twice as much as I made before. And now I've become the highest paid coordinator. I get to stay in my lane. I get all these weapons around me. I get to work with, Pete Carroll or whoever the coach turns out to be, the Notre Dame guy. I'm in, and then, that's, you're halfway there.
Let's see. I don't think I've seen anyone lobby for a job more than I have Rex Ryan to be the Jets head coach.
Oh my goodness.
So since he wants it so bad, should they just give it to him?
No, they shouldn't. They're a laughing stock already. No. Yeah, that's a complete joke.
Okay, all right. Enough of that. Okay, let's get on to the games. We'll do the two games today, and then we'll cut the tape, and we'll do the two games for the Sunday show, like we have in previous weeks. And three of these are rematches of games we've seen earlier this season, in which I think each one was a decisive victory. So what kind of more proof do you want in the pudding, per se? And the first one is obviously the Texans. They get the early slot again. They catch an 8.5 against the Chiefs, 41.5. All right, for me, I can't say I underrated the Texans defense because I thought they were pretty decent all along, but I kind of forgot about them. Kind of fell off of my radar. And maybe that's a good thing for teams to do at the end of the day when you don't have all the super expectations from the outside looking in. And they were able to handle business well. Like you said, Herbert played horrible. And the Texas defense was really, really nice. Now, they do have offensive line issues. And the Chargers were never able to capitalize on that kind of pressure to make Stroud make some tough decisions. I got to think the Chiefs put him in a few more uncomfortable situations than the Chargers did, much like in the game they played against them just a few weeks ago on a Saturday, where Stroud wasn't super comfortable in the pocket, getting harassed a little bit. Definitely saw some pressure. And as far as playmakers go, we've seen Worthy kind of step his game up towards the end, even as a runner. You got to figure the Chiefs, Hollywood Brown maybe makes a difference here with another added weapon. They are throwing all kinds of different running backs at you now. P. Ryan, Hunt, even putting Worthy back there. A little bit of Pacheco as well. We know Pat Mahomes doesn't lose in the playoffs. He doesn't lose close games. This looks like an automatic at this point, especially if they get pressure on Houston, that this is a very easy, maybe not easy, but a very winnable game for the Chiefs, and they march forward. Now, my main concern is definitely going to be the rust factor of 25 days not playing. For any team, that probably matters the least for Kansas City, just because of their postseason experience and the fact that they've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. I want the Texans. I mean, I'm going to have tickets where I'm going to be rooting with my heart because, in case we do get that crazy NFL weekend, I want to be able to be on that sort of side of thing and maybe not be Johnny Square play so much. But I just don't see the Chiefs losing this game. They might not win by 9 and cover the spread. But I don't see how they don't march forward to at least next week. The Texans won their one playoff game, as they usually do. I think the difference is going to be probably just in the trenches here a little bit. And they're going to have to hope Mahomes and company is definitely rusty. I think the Chiefs have enough weapons to play with here. As much as I'd love to see Houston go in there and win, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going to lay the 8.5, but I think that at least the Chiefs march forward. And I do have one prop I like here, and that is on a very non-greedy type of play with the running back receiving yards. I think our guy P. Ryan, who we brought up last week, is at a meager 8.5 receiving yards. You got to think that he gets that. Now up to 9.5, I see. In fact, Pacheco's 5.5, Hunt's 6.5. I can see all those guys getting over their baseline of 9.5, 6.5, 5.5, respectively. But I'll look for some props here. I think the Chiefs win. Nice season, Texans. But you hit Kansas City. Rust is going to be my one main concern, but I think the Chiefs march forward. So what do you got?
Well, let me raise the curtain here and say this about the 4 games in general this weekend. I think the 5 teams in the NFL are head and shoulders better than the rest of the teams. And obviously they're all playing this week.
Right.
3 of them are playing a team from the second tier,
right,
and just 2 of them are playing each other, and that's Buffalo and Baltimore. I don't see Houston competing with Kansas City.
Right.
I mean, when we think of Kansas City, we think about this team that kind of, sputtered during the season, won a bunch of close games. Were they lucky? Were they, or whatever? That was a long time ago. They've played very well down the stretch. Obviously, don't count that last game where they didn't try. I think the rest is great for them. They're a veteran team, and Is it too much rest? Well, that's a good question, but I'm not sure there is such a thing when you've got a bunch of old guys playing. I think they come into this game fully healthy, and Kansas City's the most creative offensive and defensive team probably in the league, and you've given them now 2 or 3 weeks to come up with even some new wrinkles.
Right.
We have no idea where they're coming from, on top of the fact that they have all this playoff experience. I don't see how this game's competitive at all. I really like the fact that Worthy has become such a popular target for them. He kind of reminds me of where Rice was at the end of last year, where they're throwing the ball to him a ton, and he's a game-breaking type. So you put the ball in his hands 10 times, you're going to get something good at least 2 or 3 times. And you can't focus on him at all because, like you said, Brown now all of a sudden is becoming a factor in the passing game. Kelsey's coming to life in the playoffs, well rested. And then you got Mahomes spreading the ball around. So, I think Kansas City's going to win this game easily. I think they're going to do it through the air. I don't think either team's going to run the ball in this game. Both of these defenses are much better against the run than against the pass. I think Mahomes, should have a really big game here. I think Worthy would be my one skill position player on the Chiefs that I would trust the most amongst, an assortment of guys. But he's been the guy who's been getting, 10, let's see, 11 targets, in his last game, 9 targets the game, so 20 targets in his last 2 games. He gets 10 targets in this game. He's going to have big numbers. So he and Mahomes are my 2 guys to look for in this game.
All right, Worthy is 53.5 for his prop. I'll add one more receiver that I would take a look at myself. Noah Gray's just down to 12.5. That is, he's going to get that. 247.5 for Mahomes passing yards. Over 1.5 touchdowns is minus 160 for Patrick Mahomes. And then as far as touchdown scores go, we'll look at your guy, Worthy, plus 210. That's a good price.
Yeah.
That's a good price. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you in everything that you just said, basically.
Well, yeah, Mahomes.
Trying to be nice to Houston is hard to.
Right. Mahomes is an automatic. Granted, you're laying $1.60, but he's an automatic at minus 1.5. Like I said, this is not going to be a running game. Kansas City's not really a running team anyway. And like you said, they got several options where they can swing the ball to a back. When you get a first and goal at the 8-yard line, you fake it, you swing it to one of the backs. It's a touchdown on a pass that most teams will be running it in. So I like all those numbers there. I think Worthy's going over 53.5. I think that we had 53.5. I think Worthy's TD is a really nice number. Mahomes 247. That's probably my least favorite of the numbers.
If they get up big, they may start running the ball and kill that.
Yeah, right. But the 1.5 TDs, I think is I'm not sure you're going to see a better number than that this whole weekend.
Let's see what he is for 3. Do you want to make that the one main primary play? Then Mahomes.
I put Worthy's yardage on that as well.
Okay, so we'll put Worthy over 53.5, Mahomes over 1.5, and he's plus 230 for 3, which actually that's kind of low for him. So that almost makes you think he's going to get it. It's one of those numbers that's too low for him. Usually he'd be closer to 3-1. Let's see here. And the passing. The team points for the Chiefs is 25.5. They can get into the 30s.
Yeah, that's that sounds reasonable to me.
All right. So Mahomes over 1.5, Worthy over 53.5. Okay.
Right, and we definitely want Worthy on a TD, a greedy ticket. A TD, 1 or 2 TDs.
Right.
So we'll sort that out later.
Let's see what he is for 2. The Kansas City defense of 7-1's a little interesting to me as well. On some sort of a possibly greedy ticket, only because this feels like the kind of game where the defense will score and a blowout.
Exactly. Or what's Stroud to throw an interception?
Yeah, let's look at that too.
I mean,
we have only 2 games.
Minus 180.
Yeah. Kansas City defense for 2 is 100-1. 2 for Worthy is 17-1. Plus 1,700. So that's a nice greedy play somewhere.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And then for an interception for Stroud is at minus 140. Yes.
Yeah, that's good too. I mean, that's another good number. Because, like you said, Houston. I'd say their offensive weakness is probably their pass protection. And like I said, Kansas City has had, they've only known the opponent here for 1 week, but they've been scheming up things for 3 weeks now. They've got some fun stuff to throw out there.
Yeah.
That they have the lead. You're going to put Houston in a position where they get away from their running game. They're not at full strength at receiver. It's just a recipe for disaster. There's going to be 1 interception in this game, probably 2.
Actually, let's see. Can I find a special on somebody other than Mahomes to throw a touchdown pass at nice odds? Because if this is the kind of game where that would happen, right?
Yes. Well, with Kansas City, it could happen any game. But yeah, it's just that these guys, given all this time, have scripted these great plays, and then let's use this one this week, let's use this one this week, and we can't use them all, so let's just give me your best one. And yeah, so I would expect at least a couple of fun plays, offensively and defensively, for Kansas City in this game.
Here's one I might jump onto. 40-1 for Mahomes to have a touchdown in each quarter. That might be worth $5. Yeah, that's asking a lot. I get it. Because you can get 2 in the third. But the 40-1 is a little attractive. Just on a small play by itself. Okay, I don't see anyone else to get a passing touchdown right yet. So maybe that'll come on some game special or something somewhere. All right, I saw another one of these specials that I liked. I was going to run by you as well. Okay, let's move on from that. The Lions and Commanders, to me, I think you're going to say the same exact thing. This is about as simple as a handicap as you get. You're going to give Dan Campbell a couple weeks off to come up with some things. 1, like you just said about the Chiefs here with Andy Reid. 2, you have a team with a rookie quarterback coming in here, and they know that he is the X factor. I mean, that is declared. It is the quarterback. It is Jaden Daniels. He is the one threat to you to lose this game, especially since you could have issues on the back end of your defense. We now have Montgomery back. That's as big of a player coming back off the injured list as there is all season long, not even in the playoffs for this circumstance right here. That is huge. Now, Gibbs doesn't have to be the complete workhorse. And the way that you beat Washington is going to be pure and simple. You're just going to take chunks of yards at a time through the running game, and you're not going to give these guys any time to work with at the end of the day. So for that, I think we see a huge dose of the running game here for Detroit. I think you take off 6-7 minutes right off the bat if you can. Either team is wise if they win the coin toss to take the kickoff and go on offense, to be honest. In fact, Washington should pray that they win the coin toss and they go on offense first. and go up 7-0 and at least put a little bit of pressure on Detroit. Because if they don't, I think it's a death by bludgeoning. I really, really do. Montgomery's rushing yardage is super low. We'll get to that in a minute. I think it's somewhere around 45.5. Gibbs is about double. I think there's a chance they both get it this Saturday night. And I think that's as simple as that. How can Washington beat us if they can't get their hands on the ball? We go for it on 4th down, so it doesn't even matter if we get to 4th and 2. We're just going to run it anyway. And if you can't stop us at 3 to 4 yards a clip every time we touch the ball, then you're in trouble. And yeah, we'll hit you over the top for a play or two to the tight end, to St. Brown, whoever. Washington's going to have to full on sell out to stop the run here, at least in my book. So I think it's a simple game plan for Detroit. They have the horses to execute it. They'll control the clock. It'll be as simple as that. At the end of the day, they'll have 41 minutes of possession. The Commanders will have 19. And Detroit will win this game something like 27-10, 31-10. I don't think we get near the over-under of 55.5 just because Detroit's going to kill this clock here from the get-go. So in the Detroit running game, I trust. Any other game plan is a stupid one, in my opinion, and it's off to the next round for the Lions. Nice season, Commanders, but you're going to play with the ball very limitedly in this game against the Lions. So what do you got?
Well, I wonder how healthy Montgomery is and how much they're going to use him. It's a tough decision, I think, for them because Gibbs has been the best running back in the league once Montgomery went out. And do you really want to cut back on the number of times he touches the ball to give it to a guy who hasn't played in 2 months and may not be at 100%? I seriously doubt Montgomery's going to, is going to be anywhere near his normal average of carries in the game. Now, that doesn't mean he won't be effective when he's in there. I'm just curious to see. I mean, the tradition, the way the Lions have played this year, they always give Montgomery the first series. Gibbs never plays on the first series.
Right.
And they give the ball to Montgomery 4 or 5 times, and they go down, they throw a couple of passes, they get their touchdown, and they bring in Gibbs the second. I mean, and then they start alternating series. I'm curious to see. I have no idea if Montgomery would even start this game, or whether they start with Gibbs now, and then they come with Montgomery later on to keep his yardage down, to keep his carries down. So I do agree with you that I think that they'll be able to run the ball effectively. There's an interesting stat, though, in this game. Is Washington allowed the fewest yards receiving to backs in the league. And that doesn't bode well for Gibbs, who does a lot of his damage through the air, especially when Montgomery's playing. And I think, an aspect of this game that you didn't mention at all, I'm shocked because you're such a Washington guy, is you cannot play the same strategy against Washington that you did against Minnesota. You can't.
Oh yeah. They'll get killed
and play man-to-man defense.
He'll run them to
Daniels
death.
will run for 150 yards.
Yeah.
And the fact is, Detroit has no other options. Detroit is terrible on defense. They look good against Minnesota because they figure out a way to get in Darnold's head. And every other game that they've played for the last 2 months, they've been terrible. When they faced Buffalo with a similar type of quarterback, Buffalo scored on every possession. Allen ran the ball like crazy against them. It's good to me. Again, another thing is very interesting about how is Detroit going to play defensively in this game? Because they play a lot of man-to-man defense, and any coordinator will tell you when the defense is playing man-to-man, that allows the quarterback to run because everybody's covering their guys and looking in the wrong direction. And you get past that first wave of linemen, and there's 20 yards of open space time and again. Like I said, when Buffalo played, Detroit. So I think Daniel's going to have a monster rushing game in this game. I do think Washington can put up big numbers against Detroit's defense. But like you said, the big question mark is just how effective will Detroit's running game be in this game? How much can they use Montgomery? And Detroit doesn't have to run the ball. Detroit is as effective throwing the ball. So even if Washington, for whatever reason, is able to slow down Detroit's running game, that shouldn't stop Detroit from scoring. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Like I said, I don't see how – I mean, every other team scores 20, 30 points against, Detroit. Why wouldn't Washington, which has a very good offensive team, McLaurin's playing really well. They got Eckler back, who could be a surprise entity in this game, catching the ball out of the backfield. Again, you blitz and you play man-to-man defense. Great way to attack that is just to lob the ball over the linebacker's heads to a back coming out of the backfield to your tight end. And so I think they have many ways of attacking Detroit in this game. I do think Detroit, will overpower them. I do think if Detroit will end up winning this game, 45-35 or, 38-28 maybe is more reasonable. But I do think this is going to be very high scoring.
Okay. All right. So you'll go with the over here, and then Washington's going to be able to do their thing against the Detroit defense. So where are you going to look prop-wise to start? Are you going to start with the Daniels rushing yards?
Yes.
54.5.
Yeah, I figured it had to be over 50.
Yeah.
But that's Allen had 11 carries, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now Richardson, who's a running quarterback, obviously, he had 10 carries, 61 yards. So there is a history of quarterbacks being able to run the ball against Detroit. And this guy is as good a runner as anybody. 54.5 sounds like a lot, but like I said, you're not going to see a lot of. Last week I talked a lot about quarterbacks like Herbert. On 3rd and 5, run for 6 yards, slide, get out of bounds, move the chains, and come back on 1st down. That's not the type of running game Washington needs from their quarterback. This is going to be a game where here comes 6 guys rushing. They've got 4 guys in coverage who aren't paying any attention to the quarterback. You escape that first line of defense, and now you're one-on-one with the middle linebacker with 20 or 30 yards of open space. And you one rush for 25 yards, another rush for 20 yards, and it's like, and you're there.
Right.
I just think those opportunities are going to be there for Daniels in this game.
Even if they're trailing at the end of the game, right? Yeah. I mean, 2-minute drill, even end of the half, you can see a lot of running from him there.
Yeah, and I do think he can be effective throwing the ball too. They've got a nice thing going in their passing game. McLaurin obviously every game he seems to score a touchdown. We would expect them to get one in this game as well. And I'm spending all my time talking about Washington's offense here when I think Detroit's going to put up 38 points.
Right.
But with Detroit, it's just they have so many weapons, and now you add another one with Montgomery, who always scores a touchdown or 2 in the games that he plays. It's a little harder to project where the big number is going to come from. They can very easily come across the board for Detroit, whereas in Washington,
it's
I think it's 2 guys. It's Daniels and it's McLaurin. And like I said, I think Eckler could be a surprise, especially in a game if they've fallen behind. He had a couple of nice catches last week, let's see, four targets last week. He's just coming back from an injury, and they fall behind. I could see him, being a guy, and like I said, short passes against a blitzing team can get you in the open field really quickly. Granted, Eckler isn't what he was 5 years ago when he would, he'd take 8 catches for 100 yards in those situations. But in this game here, I could see him catching the ball 6 times for 60 yards, and I'm guessing his receiving number is nowhere near that. So a lot of things I think are very attractive in this game.
Okay, let's get to the receiving numbers in a minute, and then the passing as well. But other rushing numbers, I'll just throw them all out there. Robinson's 36.5, Eckler 21.5, Gibbs 81.5, Montgomery 44.5, our boy Jameson Williams 1.5, and Goff is at a half a yard. The Jameson Williams one's interesting, 1.5.
Yeah, it certainly is. Jameson Williams, he's a little like Debo. I mean, you can count on him to carry the ball 1 or 2 times every game. I mean, it happens every game.
Yeah.
1.5. I mean, basically what that's saying is, will he or will he not carry the ball this game? I think he will. He does every game. So I'd want in on that.
All right. Let's see. Receiving numbers.
And then you mentioned the Detroit running backs there, and what the line is trying to tell you is that Montgomery's not going to play that much.
Right. That's why I think he did. Yeah, that's why you maybe take an alternate number on him just in case on a greedy ticket, maybe.
But the thing, the thing is Gibbs's number is way too high if Montgomery plays a lot.
Right.
And I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if Gibbs and Montgomery played together this year 8 games,
mm-hmm.
How many times did he go over, 80 yards in those games? Maybe 1 time out of 8.
Now they both score a lot when they play together.
Well, that's the thing, and they do. And Gibbs catches a lot of passes, but we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about his rushing, because of the opportunity. Again, we're talking about Montgomery at full health, but when Montgomery's carrying the ball the entire first series, the entire third series, you get to halftime of the game, and Gibbs has 3 carries for 18 yards. Well, he ain't getting to 84 yards. If Montgomery is playing that much. Now, I don't think he's going to play that much. But how much will he play? I that's the big uncertainty there. So, so that's why I'm more confident in the Washington numbers. But you threw one out there, Williams, 1.5 yards rushing. I'll gladly take that.
Yep, I like it. Okay, let's see. McLaurin is 68.5 receiving. Jameson Williams 56.5. St. Brown 75.5. Laporta 48.5. Ertz 29.5. De'Ami Brown 33.5. Zacchaeus 34.5. Robinson Jr. 8.5. Eckler 23.5. Gibbs 24.5. Montgomery 14.5. Tim Patrick 16.5.
Yeah, I mean, Eckler 23.5 is attractive to me. As I noted before, I can see him catching a 25-yard pass in this game. And if he, like I said, last week, which was just the second game back from a long injury, he got 4 targets in the game where, they weren't playing catch up. If they're playing catch up in this game, you're going to play a lot more. I think because he's healthier, you would normally think, well, even if it's a tight game, they're going to throw it to him 5 or 6 times. If they threw it to him 4 times last week, I think they could end up throwing the ball to him 6 to 8 times. And, that in that case, 23.5 is going to, fly by that real soon. So that's another. McLaurin 68.5, I think, is a good number. The what have you done for me lately principle, I think, is in play here. The people who want to say Detroit has figured things out defensively. No.
Yeah, no.
We just saw. I mean, if you ever wanted proof of that, look what Darnold did in the very next game he played after the Detroit game. I mean, he was equally bad. I mean, Detroit didn't play a good defensive game against Minnesota. Darnold played a terrible offensive game. Look at every other game Detroit's played. Even the week before with the 49ers, in a meaningless game with all of their weapons injured, they put up, I don't have the number in front of me, 28 points in that game. I don't know. I don't think Detroit is nearly as good defensively as some people seem to think.
Their best defense is literally their running game. Literally is, if it's healthy enough. I mean, that's what it's going to have to be. And keeping the Commanders off the field. Okay, let's see. Passing numbers. 271.5 for Goff. Daniels 234.5. Over 1.5 touchdowns is even money for Daniels. And I got over 2.5 for Goff at plus 142. Just in case it is run at the goal line.
Well, that's the problem. Again,
yeah.
It's the uncertainty of Montgomery, to me, makes a big difference there. If he's not playing as much, then they'll even throw some down by the goal line, even throw to Gibbs out of the backfield down by the goal line. But if Montgomery's in there, then he's going to, he'll steal a touchdown or two. And if Detroit gets 5 touchdowns in this game and Montgomery gets 2 of them, you're only left with 3 there, and where are they going? One to Gibbs on the ground and one to St. Brown and one to Laporta. Well, then you only got 2 TD passes. I don't know. Like I said, it's hard. While it's easy to project Detroit to score a lot of points in this game, I think it's hard to project who's going to get them.
The baseline points for the Commanders is just 22.5. So the way you're talking, that would be an over.
I agree.
Okay.
I just don't, even if Detroit, and in some ways, I think it's helpful if Detroit is really rolling offensively, and Washington's play, is forced to play catch up. They can play that game because they've got a lot of offensive weapons. So, I think that number, I think I take over on that number.
All right. If we're doing a super greedy 2 touchdown ticket and we have Worthy on there, we'll throw McLaurin on there too.
Yeah. Or Daniels.
Daniels to run and then is 14-1 for 2. McLaurin plus 950. Daniels is due for a 2 touchdown game. I will say that. I know no one's due for anything, but
if we're greedy, give me the higher price.
Okay, all right, gotcha. All right, Daniels for 2 with Worthy. Okay, simple enough. Anything else you want to look at in this game?
Man, we've talked way too much about
it. All right. So super over 55.5, not an issue for you. How about this? If the Lions do come out first drive, take 7-8 minutes off the clock, Montgomery's looking good. Trouble for Washington?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
I want to see how Detroit, the question then becomes, how is Detroit going to play the game defensively? Will they play more conservatively? I think they can play conservatively, and that negates Daniels rushing. If you're not rushing 5 or 6 guys, and instead you're keeping 2 more linebackers or safeties or whatever in the running zone, it's going to keep him from scrambling a lot, and kind of make him earn it by passing the ball, which, you can do against Detroit. So I think in some ways that would keep the scoring down a bit. But if they're going to come out and decide, we're going to have the same game plan we had against Minnesota, we're going to rile this young quarterback. I think that goes in both directions. I just think that makes this a much higher scoring game. So I don't think necessarily that, yes, it's going to be scary from Washington's defense that, hey, look, we're going to get killed if we let them run the ball 12 straight times up the middle against us and then go down and score a touchdown. Let's put in, let's move our guys closer to the line of scrimmage and make them throw the ball. So I think, you would end up getting that kind of adjustment, and maybe that in turn would spark more of a higher scoring game. So I think there's, I'm not really sure that Detroit scoring and eating up the clock on the first possession will have a long-term impact.
Okay, 10-4. All right, we have on the primary ticket, Xavier Worthy over 53.5 yards receiving, Mahomes over 1.5 touchdowns passing. We'll throw Jaden Daniels on there over 54.5 rushing. Do you want to throw Eckler on there over 23.5 receiving?
I got to put Jameson Williams on there as my
second play. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll throw Williams over 1.5 rushing.
Worthy, Mahomes, Daniels, and Williams
over 1.5 rushing. Yes.
And I think the next 2 that I would look at, is Eckler and Stroud's interception.
Okay.
I think both of those, in some way, shape, or form need to be weaved in there, if maybe with, some of the greedy stuff.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and cut the tape, and we'll reboot for the next program.
It's like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurewitz behind the controls.
The spread.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind. Not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sound like Shonen knife. Never feel how I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I come back to you. And do the things you do, stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get
Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta rise. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just the sight of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night.
This is the round robin, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Great stuff by Dave Del Grande right there. And now we'll bring on my former boss. He is the man. He is with the Chiefs Blitz, primetimesportstalk.com, boots on the ground in Missouri today. From Joplin, Missouri, the man, the one and only Nick Athen. Nick, you going to the game today?
Nope. We got 2 shows today on our YouTube channel at Chiefs Blitz, and we're gonna do a pregame and postgame. Enjoy it with my family and get ready for the AFC Championship game next weekend.
What time? What time are those shows, and where can we catch them?
You can check them at Chiefs Blitz on the YouTube channel. We've got a postgame show about probably around 6:45 ish, and a pregame show I think is at 11:30 today. So definitely check it out, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I just subbed to yours too, so there you go.
Oh, all right, great, cool. And I got your websites up here on the screen, and you're also doing something with Underdog Fantasy as well, correct?
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy is our new sponsor.
Awesome, good stuff.
They're working with us with both Chiefs Blitz and Primetime Sports Talk. If you go into UnderdogFantasy.com, use the code Chiefs Blitz. Everybody who logs in and subscribes and plays the games, they're going to have a chance to win one of my prizes from my collectibles, which I have a lot of. So we're pretty excited about that potential giveaway. We're going to do that every single month. So we appreciate the people who support our sponsor. Underdog Fantasy has been great. It's an easy app to work with. It's very simple to download, very simple to use. And they've got about every possible game scenario you want, high or lower, on virtually anything, NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever it might be.
In breaking news, whoever is tuning in out there, we are available for sponsorship as well. We'll gladly promote your business or entity on our program. All right, Nick, we love it, man. That the fact that you're there in Kansas City, you can give us an inside perspective here on the round robin about the game today. I don't see any scenario in which the Chiefs are intimidated by this opponent coming in. Am I correct? Or did I don't think there's a scenario in which the Chiefs don't fear anybody. Right. But this is definitely the right playoff opponent, even in Houston, the team that they beat. Have these guys coming again. We're familiar with them postseason, regular season, and we can beat them.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the only team that's going to beat the Chiefs is the Chiefs themselves. If they have a rash of turnovers, they make mistakes. Defensively, they have breakdowns. They don't respect their opponent. I mean, none of those things I think are going to happen. I know there's a lot of people on the Texans bandwagon because they played one good game against a really horrific offensive performance by the Chargers.
Right.
Listen, if Justin Herbert doesn't throw those picks, we're probably playing the Chargers this week in a 19-17 or 17-16 game that they'd had the week before. So, I think Houston's a great story. They're getting their guard back, which should help. They lost one of their tight ends. They might have lost one of their other receivers. So they're not coming in, fully healthy versus the Chiefs, who are. And the surprise is cornerback Jalen Watson will return after breaking his leg, and I think week 7 against the San Francisco 49ers. And that's a massive upgrade to the Chiefs defense. Listen, this team is healthy. They're primed. They're ready to go. They're pumped up. They've been practicing in pads. They're going to be good to go today.
All right, let's see here. Temperature, weather-wise, what are we looking at for that around kickoff?
Wind feels, probably with the windshield factor, you're looking at 10 to 12 degrees. It's going to be pretty cold. The Texans haven't had an outdoor game in any kind of temperature.
Yeah, this is rough for them
31st.
in that regard. Yep.
So yeah, there's an impact to be made for teams who don't play in cold weather.
Yep.
It happens every year in the postseason. I mean, listen, Lamar Jackson's going to face it tomorrow. He's never played a game in 20-degree weather or less, and it's going to be just as cold in Buffalo. So, I think the Chiefs, obviously, with the freeze bowl that they had to play last year against the Miami Dolphins, where the temperatures were, in the minus digits, they're certainly going to be prepared. They're going to be ready. It's not going to affect them one bit.
So as far as the total over-under is concerned, we can get there just on the Chiefs' behalf mainly anyway, correct? If the Chiefs go ahead and rout the Texans here, I mean, you guys could get up 31 points. They could get 14, maybe 13 even, and then that's going to go over the total. Do you expect your Chiefs to get over that 30-point threshold?
I kind of think so because, I think this offense has been relatively conservative.
Right.
Let's be honest. Throughout the season, we saw a little bit more of the offense against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Christmas Day because the Chiefs really wanted to wrap up the AFC with a win that day. They didn't want to go into Denver having to worry about, potentially losing the top seed. And I think, with the emergence of, you've got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Hollywood Brown now, that's 3 games for him or 2 games for him that he's been able to play at a high level, which is quite remarkable considering the injury. He's just been a breath of fresh air for the offense. Joe Finney's going to remain at the left tackle position. So I think they're going to continue the offense the way they have in that last 3 games of the season for them when they had that 3-game stretch in 11 days and they were 3-0. I think you're going to see the same type of offense. I think they're going to be motivated. I think the intent is, let's remind the NFL who we are. And a lot of NFL pundits are, thinking that the Texans are going to win. And, the Chiefs can't do this anymore.
Yeah, they're right for the picking. Yep.
It's just, I just think it's just a matter of disrespect. I mean, I even saw rankings for Patrick Mahomes.
The Patriots put up with that for years. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit different because I think people don't realize, now in 7 straight seasons, the Chiefs, have a chance to be in the AFC championship game. They have the best quarterback in the game today. Now, Lamar Jackson might be a better player than Patrick Mahomes, but he's not a better quarterback. And there's a difference. And in the postseason, it's quarterback play that drives you into winning playoff games and Super Bowls. And there's nobody better at it right now than Patrick Mahomes. And there's no other quarterback, outside of Matthew Stafford that can do it. So I think that people are really dissing this team, and a lot of these so-called experts are just like, well, what if Mahomes loses, or what if this happens, or this happens? I mean, these guys are too focused. I mean, they're not going to take the Texans lightly. They're not going to pay an ounce of focus on what they did 4 weeks ago against them. This is a whole new ball game. It's a whole new cycle. It's a whole new process in how they get ready for the game today at 3:30.
All right, and Dave Del Grande, who I had on before you, he brought up a good point too. You've had Andy Reid sitting around for 3 weeks now, just thinking of new plays, new twists, new turns that he could throw out in this game. And, they'll probably involve Worthy. And I think when we had you on a couple times ago, Nephew Dave brought up the Xavier Worthy question to you. And you're like, this guy's getting ready to bust out. And that's exactly what has happened. So a few twists and turns, some more Xavier Worthy today is going to be on the menu for the Texans as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, let's give credit where credit is due. I mean, they've got a terrific, they got a terrific defense, and they deserve credit for it. And you got Derek Stingley out there, who is one of the best cornerbacks, if not the best. Kamari Lassiter. I mean, these are a couple of guys that can play at a high level. Now they didn't play at a high level against the Chiefs the first time, because they really couldn't, generate any pass rush to make Patrick Mahomes feel uncomfortable. But that may change today. I think they're going to play a little bit different, but I think Worthy, I think this is the game where we see that long ball return. I would not be shocked if play one is an all-out go route for Worthy today. Just a gut feeling, So put him on your fantasy pick for today.
Wow. All right. So going deep early to Worthy. I like it. All right. He's a 51.5 for his receiving yards. So that's going to be too low for you, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is going to be a really big game for him. I think they're going to focus a lot on Kelsey. They're going to focus a lot on Hopkins, and they're going to take their chances, with Worthy and with Hollywood.
And Hollywood. All right.
And that's just and then you got Watson out there who you never know. He's the guy who can have, a big play like he did against the Steelers and a touchdown. They've got so many weapons. We haven't talked about Noah Gray, Pacheco, Hunt. I mean, when you look at the totality of this offense, and Patrick Mahomes is just going to spread the ball around. And that's troubling if you're a defense. Who do you stop, especially if you don't get pressure on Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, actually, we are going to mention those guys. Noah Gray, I see at 11.5 for his baseline receiving yards. How is that even possible that he's not going to get that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just one play.
That's one play.
I would feel pretty confident in playing Noah Gray today for the 11.5 for certain.
Yeah, Noah Gray. Did I say Noah Brown, the Commanders tight end? Maybe I didn't. I was thinking Noah Brown, but I'm looking at Noah Gray in my head, or on my paper. Let's see here. Another one I liked was P. Ryan for 9.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, just based on a lateral from Travis Kelce might get him that too, because they split that reception yard.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too. They've used him in the screen game. They put him out in the flat. He had a really good game against the Texans. Last time they played, he's kind of been that that go-to third down secret weapon. He's a terrific blocker. He sacrifices his body, but he's really good at leaking out into space and getting big plays. So that'd be another player I'd key on today. And again, this is the beauty of the Chiefs offense. And I think when you see these odds for the game, you see reasonable. You don't see a guy who's going to have 100 yards. You don't have 100. One of those 7, 8, 9 reception guys. Patrick Mahomes spreads the ball out, and if you look at the way the betting lines are for the individual players in these games for Kansas City, you see that as a reflection of how well, and how many options that Patrick Mahomes has, today.
Wow, I can get some big numbers for some Chiefs guys. Give me a green light, red light for 25 yards receiving. I can get P. Ryan 25 yards at plus 410.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's quite possible. Kelsey, I think it was, I saw 53.5 yards. I would take the high. I'd take the high end on that. I would take the high end on the rushing for Hunt as well. I think he's going to have a really big game today. Something just tells me that he's so motivated. This is his chance to finally have a meaningful, playoff game in Kansas City after what happened with his departure. I know he's going to be very excited to be out there today.
So Hunt's at 31.5. So you like that over?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he's going to have a really, really big game today.
I can get some other crazy payouts here. Just tell me.
All right, go for it.
Yay or nay. Well, Pacheco's a guy I like for 25 yards receiving. Last year, he was really cranking it up with the receiving yards. This year, he's done nothing. In fact, they throw it to everyone but him in the backfield. But I can get him at 8-1 for 25 yards receiving.
I probably wouldn't take that bet. That's just me.
Do not take that bet. Okay.
I don't know if that's going to be a focal point for him in the screen game. I think they trust Hunt more, and I think they trust P. Ryan more.
25 yards for Noah Gray, 3-1.
I'd say that's kind of iffy.
You like the baseline better? Yep.
Yeah, I like the baseline better.
All right, Smith-Schuster. I can get 25 yards for him. It's plus 680. Almost 7-1 for 25 yards. For
we didn't even talk about. I didn't even talk about him before. I mean, he's kind of been that unsung hero.
Yeah.
And, what's so great about him is he's turned into that blocking wide receiver. He's the guy that lines up with Worthy on the one side and kind of gets in front of him on those short passes. He sacrifices his body, but I'm not sure he can get that number.
Okay.
Receiving.
All right. Let's see here. Would you buy into the Kansas City defense for a touchdown today at 7-1 odds?
Yeah, I would throw a few bucks at that one. I think that's a real strong possibility.
It has all the feel of this is going to be, potential routes, and Houston's going to have trouble all day. And we saw Stroud under pressure from Kansas City in the last game. That this, usually in a playoff type of route game, you get some sort of a pick six or scoop and score.
Sure you do.
And the Chiefs are poised for that today. Okay. Anything else you would look at on behalf of the Chiefs? Mahomes is a lock for 1.5 touchdown passes, correct?
Oh yeah, no, most definitely, absolutely. I think maybe take a flyer on a Nick Bolton sack or Drew Tranquill sack. Might be kind of fun to play those. Justin Reed maybe getting an interception. Those are kind of be some of the places that I would go. If you're looking to expand your odds, and even the Texans today. I mean, Robert Woods is sitting at 18.5 receiving yards, and I definitely would take the higher on that because he's going to be the other option, next to Nico Collins. And
right.
I'm not sure I take the high for Nico of 83.5, but I think Robert Woods could have a 40, 50 yard receiving day.
Who was the player you said to get an interception?
Justin Watson.
He's 8-1.
No, I'm sorry, Justin Reed. Sorry.
Justin Reed is plus 650 for an interception.
Yeah, I would be open to that.
Okay, all right, and then let's look at the Robert Woods. I was thinking Nico. I'm sorry, not Nico. I was thinking Mechie because I feel like he's been trending the right way. As for
he's played a lot better. Kudos to him. He's been through so much.
Right.
He's at 33.5 receiving yards. He could be an option. And again, you'd have to think if the Chiefs have a lot of success on offense, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So there's a good chance. But I don't think Spags is going to sit back and prevent defense either. I think he's going to be relatively aggressive today. Set the tone early and make sure that he's in a position to where the Houston Texans can't get any rhythm or momentum.
Yeah, you're right. The Texans are going to be forced to throw at some point. Whether they're going to be able to do it or not is still going to be the question. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. There's the key.
What would you put for a correct score in this game?
I got the Chiefs at 31 and the Texans at 13.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That's as far as I think they can go point wise today. This game reminds me a lot of, the Dolphins game last year, a hot offense, good defense. There are a lot of people who didn't think the Chiefs could win against the Dolphins. It's kind of got that similar feel and style to me. And I think the Chiefs defense is going to be fired up. Chris Jones is healthy. And again, getting Jalen Watson back, as your number 2 cornerback, for the postseason is just remarkable. It's remarkable for his work ethic. And Pacheco's the same. And, it's just, you get these guys who are so motivated to understand what the process is, being in the playoffs and being a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they work their tail off. He's going to help this defense tremendously. If nothing more, he's an upgrade, on the backups, and Zeke Johnson and Christian Roland Wallace, who's played, I think, pretty well for a rookie. So, this is a good problem for Spags to have.
All right. Who do you like in the other games?
Let's see. I really want to pick the Redskins / Commanders. They're kind of a great feel-good story. I love Daniels a lot. The Bears made a huge mistake by not drafting him. And I think what I liked most about this team was, they did something this week, and I'm going to go blank on the name, but Doug Williams, their famous quarterback who won a Super Bowl. They all wore jerseys when he came into the room this week to talk to the team. I just think they've got something special. I really do. I think Dan Campbell's going to make a big mistake in this game. So I'm going with the upset with the Commander because I just like the way they built this football team, and I love their veteran coaches, guys with experience, and I think they're going to win tomorrow. As much as I want to pick the Rams, I can't do it. And in the late game, I'm going to go with the Bills. I just don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be able to win this game tomorrow night.
Yeah, if there's a difference at the end of the day, if all things are equal, I think it's the arm of Allen is probably better than the arm of Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and again, I think that the cold weather does have a factor in all this. And I think you can't, listen, the Rams have to go to Philadelphia. It's going to be very cold there. I think
5 inches of snow, maybe.
Yeah. And, in Buffalo, it's going to be cold. Kansas City, it's cold. And the only reason I give the Commanders a chance is because it's indoors and they have a lot of speed. They've got a young quarterback who just doesn't know any better. And that's scary to me. That's why I think Bo Nix, if he'd come to Kansas City this week and the Chiefs play the Broncos today, I would be more concerned. That's the one team in the playoffs I didn't want to see the Chiefs play because I just thought Bo Nix just doesn't know any better, Right. And I think you've got the same one with Daniels and with Washington. So that would be my only upset of the weekend. I think the home teams are going to win out.
I got to think the Lions. Dan Campbell knows he has the horses, especially if Montgomery's healthy. It's got to be the running game to me for the Lions, right? I mean, wouldn't you think that's got to be their game plan? Let's just run the ball to death, and then we'll keep Daniels off the field as much as possible and kill the clock.
You would definitely think so, but then you've got, they've got a very strong precision passing game.
Yep.
I love Jared Goff a lot. I really do. I think he's a terrific quarterback. The problem I have with him is I think if you can understand that rhythm and you can understand the way he looks at the particular receiver in any given play, I think he can be beaten. And I think the Commanders' defense is just going to throw caution to the wind today. I think you're going to see them blitz him. They're going to do run blitzes. They're going to be extremely aggressive on defense. And the Lions' defense is good. It's not great. They are getting healthier. But, without Hutchinson out there still, and there's probably no light of day that he can come back even if the Lions advance, that's just a piece that they haven't solved. Even though they've won a lot of games, they play a lot like the Chiefs do. I think they're the most vulnerable of the home teams today. And I would not be shocked if this is an overtime game.
Oh, wow.
And something just tells me this is going to be a game that the Lions, this is the matchup the Lions probably didn't want.
Who's the team that you would want to play the least in the Super Bowl?
I said this on a radio show yesterday. I'm going to go with the Commanders.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's just, again, when you have a rookie quarterback who's in the right system, has the right coaching, Cliff Kingsbury's done a terrific job with this kid. He had a kind of lull during the season. He's dealt with some injuries, but that game against the Eagles, when, even though they didn't have, their starting quarterback out there, that he led that comeback. That's when you kind of knew, like, okay, this kid's got something special.
Yeah, they're clutch.
And
they're clutch.
Yeah, and I think, they're a little bit underrated offensively. I don't think people understand how good this football team is. Behind center. I think that what they spent the first 4 or 5 games of the year, 6 games of the year, they didn't take a field goal in the red zone. I mean, they're just a machine. And, I give them a lot of props. I really like them a lot. I think they're the team to beat. I mean, the Eagles, I'm not sold on the quarterback. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. I think he's.
I'm saying the same thing. They're one-dimensional. They're too one-dimensional for me.
Yeah, you stop Barkley, and the game's over. And I think that, I don't want to look too far ahead because, again, the Texans aren't going to just lay down for the Chiefs today. But, I think if the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl, the Commanders would be the team I wouldn't want to face. I think the Lions, when they're on, are the best team in the NFC. I don't think there's any question about that. And, Dan Campbell's going to have them ready to go. If they get to that game. They've never been to a Super Bowl. They're like the Chiefs. They only have to win 2 games to get there. I think a Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl would be terrific. My Chiefs-Packers and my Chiefs-Vikings didn't happen. So I guess for the NFL pundits who want to have the Bills and the Lions in the Super Bowl, if the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl, I think it'd be a terrific matchup.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. All right, Nick, we'll get you on before we get to the Super Bowl.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
All right, yeah, and I need to talk to you about getting your show on my website. So I'll buzz you this week.
Give me a call later.
We'll do. All right. Yep. All right, Nick Athen, boots on the ground from Joplin, Missouri, and from our Oceanview studios in the lovely Norfolk, Virginia, joins us nephew Dave. What's up? Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning.
Did you wake up with a funny feeling in your stomach today? A little bit of extra excitement that you haven't felt in some time? Kind of some weird blood flow going through your body at the moment, correct?
Steve, I am absolutely pumped right now. We got a divisional game tonight. I mean, it's just fantastic. It really is.
And you got the top dog. And here's the thing. I told you this a week or so ago. No one can proclaim Washington to be a fluke. If they go through Tampa on the road, they go through Detroit on the road, and then get one more win on the road next week.
I'm telling you what. I don't want to jump to any conclusions. We have a really good team ahead of us tonight. But if somehow the boys pull this one off, I mean, I think the chances to at least make it to the big game are very, very good.
Okay, I'll flash up some tickets on the screen now. So if you're not driving, watch those. If you can put on the YouTube TV and sit down for another 45 minutes, go ahead and do that. Me and nephew Dave will go through the 2-game slate, and then we'll do the art of making a ticket. We'll still pop that segment in here, and we'll build something together on the show for you guys. Anytime touchdown, round robin up there right now with Dameon Pierce on the motif that Mixon could be banged up. We got Pierce at 22-1 odds. Crowder is at 16-1 for a touchdown for him. So he's in this. DeMarcus Robinson is in this for the Rams tomorrow, and Ty Johnson for the Bills. So interesting ticket there posted on the screen now, and we'll rotate through all of that. Here's Dave Del Grande's ticket as well. We'll post that right now. So Dave Del Grande's ticket of Worthy over 53.5, Patrick Mahomes over 1.5 touchdowns, Jaden Daniels over 54.5 rushing yards, Jamison Williams over 1.5 rushing yards, Dallas Goedert over 37.5 receive yards, and Justice Hill over 22.5 receive yards. All that pays. Well, I put a $77 freebie on there, and that pays $2,500 on the Dave Del Grande 6-pack. Okay, Dave, what is the state of the union of the Commander fans on playoff day right now?
I mean, it's great, Steve. Like I said, I mean, I imagine that everybody else is like myself. Just pumped for the game tonight, man. We've got to wait all day again. So that builds the intensity a little bit. We're ready to go. We want to see it now. But it's good, Steve. Whether it's a win or a loss, though, it's been a great season, and you can't be mad at it. You have to go through, some of the best teams to get there, and I think the future is bright one way or the other should they lose the game tonight. You hit the offseason, you add a couple more pieces, and this team is dangerous, very dangerous for the next 10 years. If things can continue to trend this way, there's always bumps in the road, but you start moving in the right direction, and you bring back the old glory, so to speak. So it's a great state of the union over here. Again, want to win a loss, but it's one of those things where nobody thought we'd be here again. I say that every week because, what was the win total for Washington? 5.5 or something like that.
Wow, right.
Far exceeded that. And I think
he's
really
an alternate winner. That's why you bet alternate lines right there.
And the only way is up, Steve. Again, if the team continues this path on the rebuild, it'll be a great time to be a Washington fan again. So really pumped, Steve.
All right, we'll get to that game in a minute. Let's go to the Kansas City game first. Again, we just had Nick Athen on from the ChiefsBlitz.com, my old boss at Warpaint Illustrated, and he is with PrimetimeSportsTalk.com as well. The Chiefs 8.5 over the Texans, 41.5. I think the general consensus so far on everyone is that the Chiefs handle business today. They've had plenty of time off. I question the rust factor a little bit. I really, really do. But if there's any team who's going to be able to cope with it, it's Kansas City. The Texans still with no bye week. Their players still probably beat up and bruised a little bit, missing a few players as well. They'll get a guard back today on the offensive line, so that helps them. But even Mixon turned his ankle in practice this week. I liked the Texans last time they played the Chiefs. And I think I played the Texans every time they played the Chiefs, and I don't think I've come out successful once. So maybe this is a case of you can't beat them, join them type of deal. But I just don't see at the end of the day the Chiefs bowing out at this point of the playoffs. I think they move on. So I don't know if they'll cover the spread or not. I'm going to probably lean towards the Chiefs points and hope that they get a good alternate total. They're at 25.5. I'm going to take them over 30.5 points at a nice payout of, let's see here, plus 210. I'll put in a parlay with a couple other teams with their team points throughout the weekend. I'll pick a team points for all these games. And give me the Chiefs points here. I see plenty of low-hanger receivers I like. Del Grande says this is going to be a passing game. Nick Athen says this is going to be a passing game. So there are a lot of big numbers paying out for the Chiefs here. We'll get to those in a second. But, Dave, go ahead and give me your thoughts about this game.
Steve, my thoughts here are, the Chiefs probably do move on. It might just be a little bit too much for Houston at the end of the day. But don't expect Houston to roll over, especially if you get a performance from the defense like you did last week.
Right, very underrated, yep.
The Chiefs this year against the spread, I don't think it's been very good. They haven't blown but one or two teams out, and they've all been one-score games, right? So let's give Houston a chance here. I think Houston can cover this spread. So I'm all over that today. I think it's a tighter game again, especially
nice.
If these two defenses get going. They can both be good defenses. We've seen it. So give me this to be closer than people think, and I think the Texans do cover.
Dave, I can make a case for the under in all these games. I really can, especially since it's going to be really cold there. So I think on some sort of a ticket, I need to play all four unders just to back things up, even if I like to play some prop overs. I don't want to be disappointed at the end of the day. Maybe play all four first half unders or something like that. With everything that you just kind of said, defense, everything's a little bit tighter. It's playoff time. And
and things are kind of limited. I think the experience factor for me will just come through for the Chiefs at the end of the day. 255.5 for Mahomes passing, 223.5 for Stroud. 1.5 touchdowns minus 160 for Mahomes over. Del Grande loves that. Stroud is a nice price, plus 210 for 2 touchdowns passing, Dave. That's not the worst.
That's not bad at all.
Here. In fact, Stroud for 3 touchdowns is plus 900. How about that? Mahomes,
and you got to think that's probably how it's going to come for him too.
Plus 240. Yeah. You got to think it's probably how it's going to come if they're going to be competitive in this game. I'm going to have to at least play that on some sort of a underdog ticket. Stroud for 275 yards passing is 3-1. 300 yards or more is plus 550. In fact, he could get that in garbage time, even if they are trailing. Mahomes for 300 yards is at plus 240 today. The rushing props, Pacheco 41.5. Hunt is 31.5. Nick Athen loves the over for Kareem Hunt on his, and it makes sense. Kareem Hunt hasn't played a meaningful playoff game for the Chiefs since he's been cut from them. So maybe a good redemption day for him. Mixon's at 57.5. Mahomes is at 24.5. Stroud 14.5. And Xavier Worthy is just 4.5. I think you got to put him in there, right? For 4.5 for Worthy somewhere. Kareem Hunt,
that a rush yard
number? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Kareem Hunt for 50 yards rushing is at plus 285.
Oh yeah,
so I got a lot of notes for these Chief guys right now.
I went Hunt for 50.
CJ Stroud, a winner for us last week for 40 yards rushing, is another big payout, plus 980. For 25 yards, plus 260. So I'll have my hands on some Stroud again today as well. Let's see here. Receiving wise. Kelsey 51.5, Nico 82.5, Worthy 51.5, Hopkins 31.5, Hollywood Brown 40.5, Schultz 37.5, Mechie 34.5, Mixon 17.5, P. Ryan is at 9.5, Kareem Hunt 5.5, Pacheco 5.5, Noah Gray 11.5, Smith Schuster is at 6.5. These are guys who have been getting involved. Not Pacheco, but can he today? Listen to some of these numbers for receiving wise. P. Ryan, who gets the ball a lot out of the backfield, plus 410 for 25 yards. Kareem Hunt for 25 receiving yards is plus 920. Pacheco for 25 receiving yards is plus 820. Noah Gray for 25 receiving yards is 3-1. 50 yards for Noah Gray is 15-1. And Smith Schuster for 25 yards receiving plus 680, Dave. How about those for some low hanger numbers?
Oh, dude, I think there are some opportunities there. I took Noah Gray over. I was listening to Nick there trying to gain a little insight. He seemed to like the baseline a little bit more. I understand completely, but I'm going to go 25. I'm going to push the limit on that a little bit. We've seen him do it. It's a couple passes down the field. Maybe when you're not expecting it. I love Noah Gray for 25. You're getting a great number.
I played, I used a 50% boost. I played P. Ryan, Gray, and Smith Schuster all for 25 yards receiving. And that booster off $10 paid $2,500. So easy enough for 3 guys just to get 25.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Try to hit the same thing as like we did last week, which we mentioned before, and that ticket will flash up here on the screen here through our rotation eventually. Touchdown scores today: Mixon plus 140, Pacheco plus 160, Kelsey plus 160, Hunt plus 175, Nico plus 185, Xavier Worthy 2-1, Marquise Brown plus 270. That is Hollywood Brown. DeAndre Hopkins plus 310, Dalton Schultz plus 340, Mechie is plus 500. Schultz doesn't have the worst number, plus 340, as bad as the Chiefs are against tight ends. Mahomes plus 550. Noah Gray plus 550. Xavier Hutchinson plus 650. Robert Woods plus 650. The Kansas City D I like somewhat today, 7-1. P. Ryan is 8-1. That's an interesting, good number. I like Watson plus 950. Smith Schuster 10-1. Stroud 12-1. Damian Pierce 14-1 now. I played him at 25-1. So I feel good about that as we speak. 2 touchdowns. Mixon's 10-1. Pacheco 12-1. Kelsey 12-1. Hunt 13-1. Nico 15-1. Worthy 18-1. Hollywood's 29-1. DeAndre Hopkins 31-1. Schultz 36-1. Noah Gray 70-1. Mechie 80-1. Mahomes 85-1. Kansas City D 95-1. P. Ryan 100-1. Robert Woods 110-1. Xavier Hutchinson 110-1. Who's your most likely 2 touchdown scorer, Dave?
Oh man, let's see. Most likely 2 touchdown scorer. You know what? Let's do Kareem Hunt if we think he's going to have a big day. We'll follow the Nick Athen tip there.
Kareem Hunt for 2 touchdowns is at 13-1. All right, we'll go and throw him on touchdown madness. I'll throw on the other end Dalton Schultz just to be safe as well on Houston's side of things. He's at 36-1. Or do we throw Mechie in at 80-1?
You could do Worthy too.
Just take 2 Chiefs? Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to sub out Hunt for Worthy, I think you could pick either of those guys.
I have Worthy on other tickets. So yes, while I do back Worthy for 2, let's go with Hunt. Here. Let's go mad here. So that's Hunt not being so mad. We'll get mad with Mechie at 80-1. How about that?
Yeah.
Let's take Dalton Schultz 36-1.
I like it.
Let's just do that. Okay. All right. So you think this is a close game, perhaps lower scoring? The total's gonna be close. I think the Chiefs win handily myself here. But I get it, Dave. They have a good defense.
Well, they're going to have another performance like they did last week. And if they don't, then it might not be as close as, we think.
Trust me, I'm betting with my heart in some cases as well. I mean, I don't want the Chiefs to win. The sooner they're out of the playoffs, the better. But they'll make for a much more exciting championship round if it's Kansas City against Buffalo or the Ravens. I will say that.
Right.
Houston's going to have it tough next week if they win.
Oh, absolutely. If they manage to get through this one, then that might be about it, honestly.
Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. All right. And I'll look at, again, the low hanger receivers here. Let's mix and match a bunch of things. P. Ryan, Hunt, even Pacheco, Gray, and Schuster. Just take 2 or 3 of those guys. Excuse me. Mix them up, and you'll come out with a big payout at the end of the day. I'll take Worthy for a couple of touchdowns. Let's see. I got Worthy over receiving yards somewhere as well. I'll take his Worthy over 4.5 rushing yards as well. And I'll take Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns as well. Kansas City defense will be on a ticket as well. All right, next game. Anything else on that one, Dave?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. We've got some tickets built. So we'll see what happens in that one.
All right, 9.5 for the Lions and 55.5 the total. Dave, what happens in your Commander Lion game?
I think we see some points, but I think it's one of those games where you kind of like the last game. It's going to come close. Does it go over or does it stay just under? I haven't quite figured it out, but figure it's going to be competitive, Steve. I know that much.
All right. That's the Washington breakdown right there. I think we get a lot. The Commanders better be ready to sell out on the run, I think, here. They need this. They need to get Montgomery and Gibbs stopped dead in their tracks and force his ball into the air a little bit. Now, that's a good thing because the Lions can move the ball through the air as well. But as far as time of possession goes, the Commanders are going to want as much time as they can to work with the football today, and that's not going to happen if Gibbs and Montgomery are dominating through the running game. So I think you guys need to sell out on the run. I really could go both ways. The Lions are ripe for an upset. There's been a lot of people talking that this week. I get it. I don't think I've heard anyone say the Lions are going to blow out the Commanders. But I think the path is there, especially if Detroit's able to run the ball 4 or 5 yards a chunk, and Washington makes a mistake or two, then it's going to be hard to overcome that at the end of the day. And the Lions probably will win by a couple of scores. It's going to be a loud, raucous environment. It's going to be an interesting, fun game. That's for sure. I would love to see points here. I would love to get off on the fantasy props. I mean, we have a ton of them. The touchdown scores are Gibbs minus 230, Montgomery minus 175, St. Brown minus 130, Jamison Williams plus 135, McLaurin plus 135, Daniels plus 150, Laporta plus 150, Robinson Jr. plus 165, Eckler's in this game plus 240, Ertz plus 250, Zacchaeus plus 360, De'Ami Brown plus 360, Tim Patrick plus 410, Detroit defense plus 490. I don't know why they're that low. Washington defense plus 650, Khalif Raymond 8-1, Jared Goff plus 950. There's Luke McCaffrey 15-1, Jamison Crowder 16-1. Dave, how about that?
Oh, absolutely. Him and Zacchaeus are on my radar today.
How about Bates? I feel like he's been getting involved a little bit more.
Yeah, he's going to be if he gets in, it's going to be down there in the red zone, probably in some kind of goal line formation, I would think.
All right, 20-1 for him. 2 touchdowns for this game. Gibbs plus 230, Montgomery plus 340, St. Brown 5-1, Jamison Williams 10-1, McLaurin 10-1, Daniels 10-1, Laporta 11-1, Brian Robinson 12-1, Eckler 19-1, Ertz 25-1, Zacchaeus 39-1, De'Ami Brown 43-1, Tim Patrick 44-1, Detroit defense 55-1, 100-1 for the Washington defense, and Jared Goff 110-1. The passing yards, Goff 274.5, Daniels 233.5. That seems low. Rushing wise, Brian Robinson is at 36.5, Jaden Daniels 55.5, Eckler 23.5, Gibbs 81.5, Montgomery 46.5, so that's gone up a little. Jamison Williams 1.5. I actually like that over. Goff is at a half a yard rushing. Jaden Daniels alternate for 70 yards is at plus 180. Robinson Jr. for 80 yards rushing is at plus 820, Dave. Is there a path for Brian Robinson Jr. to have 80 yards rushing?
He needs to get going. I haven't seen that from him in quite some time, to be honest.
60 yards is plus
really
340.
Now that I would give a chance. I think that's a little bit more reasonable, just with the way things have kind of gone for him lately. You could say he's due for a performance like that. What better time it would be than this game. So I think it is playable, but I would proceed with a little bit of caution there on his props.
All right. Eckler for 40 yards is at plus 310 rushing. We might like him in the receiving game a little more. You could see that?
Definitely in the receiving yards, it would be your primary focus. But if you wanted to play something, in a parlay that's a little bit more obscure, I mean, 40 yards, he's going to get some touches. So, I mean,
he's going to get them.
He's going to get them. So it's just going to take a couple if he can, break off a few. So I would still play that, honestly.
Eckler is 25 yards receiving plus 108. Eckler at 40 yards receiving is at plus 265. So Eckler over Rush for 40 and receive.
I would take the 40s.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to have to play around with that on the old phone here. David Montgomery receiving yards plus 270 for 25. And he does get it out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think maybe to avoid contact a little bit, they will throw the ball out to him in the flats. Gibbs, 40 yards for him is at plus 245. Who's the X factor for Detroit that needs to be shut down to you? Is it Gibbs?
I think, at this moment, it's got to be Gibbs. I mean, that's no disrespect to Montgomery, but he is coming off an injury. Maybe they use him a little bit differently to, keep him from, getting further injured. So I think it has to be Gibbs in the backfield.
All right, let's see here. Low hanger for Brian Robinson Jr., 8.5 receiving yards for him. And he's been getting a little bit more in the passing game here, I feel like, as the games have gone. Zacchaeus, 34.5. De'Ami Brown, 34.5. Laporta, 46.5. Jamison Williams, 55.5. St. Brown, 76.5. Ertz, 29.5. McLaurin, 71.5. Tim Patrick is at 16.5. Khalif Raymond at 5.5. And the team points side numbers. Let's see. Washington, 23.5, their baseline. And Detroit is at 33.5. So they're really expecting Detroit to score a ton of points. Wow.
Yeah.
I would take the Commanders before I would take the Detroit number.
That's what I did, Steve. 27.5.
On the alternate number, was that about 2-1?
I believe it was. I can actually check that real quick.
I see plus 196 on my end, so they're close enough anyway.
So, yeah, close enough. If we're going 27.5, I have it plus 240.
All right, so what else do you like in this game?
I like, let's see, what else did I have here? Zacchaeus for a sneaky touchdown. Don't forget about him. What else do we have? I had a couple, so I did a little Washington parlay here. Terry for anytime touchdown, 250 passing yards for Jaden Daniels. You got to take advantage of that defense being a little bit banged up. I think that's the key to the game. That, and you go into this game similar to the Buccaneers game with the time of possession in mind. You keep the ball, do these long drives, and keep that offense off the field. It is just going to be the best formula to win this game. So don't give the Lions too many opportunities. What else did we have here? Yeah, that's about it. We got the tight ends parlay going, fired up this weekend. So, Zach Ertz is going to be in there. A little bit of a security blanket there in the middle of the field for Daniels. So play his yards anytime. Figure Terry to be involved. I could see him scoring twice tonight. So there's a lot of X factors out here on both sides, Steve. So if it goes over, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, and for touchdown madness, you want to throw in Zacchaeus since he said the word sneaky, 39-1.
Yeah, why not?
And then I'll tell you what, all the lines are paying so low. Let's just go ahead and throw Brian Robinson Jr. on there at 12-1.
Okay, I'm down with that.
That way, if we get Hunt and Robinson Jr., that's a payout.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so if we do, let's do $3 legs here, and that's going to cost us $12. The average payout is $1,000 if two of these guys hit. Now you have to hit one from each game, but know that if you have some of the lower odds guys like Hunt and Robinson, you're not going to get paid out $1,000. You'll get paid out something like $300, probably $350. But if you get Zacchaeus and Schultz, then you'll probably get a couple thousand or something like that. So we'll go ahead and fire that in, and then we'll play all four. And all four together we'll just play $2. And we'll play $3 just because we'll keep with the theme. $3 wins $558,000 if all four of those guys, Brian Robinson Jr., Zacchaeus, Dalton Schultz, and Kareem Hunt, all score 2 touchdowns. All right, so that's 2 touchdown madness. All right.
There we go.
I'll look at the Eckler receive yards. I'll look at Jameson Williams over 1.5 rushing yards. I'll look at the Brian Robinson rush yards, and I'm going to look at the Daniels passing yards. Knowing that this is maybe a green light for everybody overall. I feel like it just is.
It really could be.
A green light for all for this game. All right. Let's do art of building a ticket, Dave. You want to do that?
Yeah. Build one up
here. And then we'll do our picks and we'll get on out of here and we'll do a Sunday show. How about that?
In studio, right?
In studio. We'll start at 9 a.m. Eastern. The Del Grande interview short tomorrow. So figure go time for us can be like right at the usual time, 10 o'clock.
All right. Might bring the stuff to make the dip. We got some sports all day tomorrow.
Do we have Capitals hockey at noon?
No, but there is a noon game.
Okay. All right. The art of making tickets. Let's see. What route should we venture down today? Do we want to do complete randomness? Do we want to do low hanger receivers in each game? Let's do that.
Yeah,
Let's
I think we go with that.
Low hanger receiver in each game.
Because there's definitely some avenues there.
One off here, even on round robin type of style one. And the art of making a ticket, this is how we come up with our winning tickets. And honestly, you just have to ask yourself, is this player capable of doing this? And if the answer is yes, then they qualify. It's as simple as that. We'll look for big odds and a big payout, and we'll go from there. So when we look at the receivers, we have plenty of Chiefs. For 25 yards, we have Smith-Schuster at plus 680. Noah Gray is at 3-1. Pacheco, which no one is expecting, is plus 820. That's why he would be a good pick, because no one's expecting it. Kareem Hunt for 25 yards is plus 920. P. Ryan for 25 yards receiving is at plus 410. I don't have many receivers available for the Texans to get involved here. I would look at a Robert Woods, maybe a Mechie, but Mechie needs 60 yards for plus 320. I don't have to go that route. I don't want to rely on Dalton Schultz to get 60 yards at plus 300. So let's hit one of these lower hanging guys for 25. You know what? I like the Smith-Schuster as plus 710, Dave.
For 25?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, so let's throw him on the art of making a ticket. That's going to automatically make us have a big payout as it is. We'll hit this Commander-Lions game. And, again, we'll look for a low hanger here. And our lowest hanger is Eckler, probably, where he stands at 22.5.
Eckler for 40 is very inviting.
Yeah, let's just go with that. I think that's fair. Eckler for 40 at plus 270. Not the hugest payout, but at plus 270 for him, that's a good matchup with Smith-Schuster. And right now, just those two are paying 29-1. And I think I'll play that for at least, let's see, what does 5 pay? Well, 5 pays 144, and that at least pays for the afternoon, maybe. Let's just go a little cheaper. 250 to 172. Nothing crazy. But again, that could free roll us a little bit for tomorrow. And we'll tie in everything else with tomorrow with it as well. And we'll go to this Eagle-Ram game where we could have snow. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But low hanger receivers, the guys available to us. There's Jahan Dotson at just 4.5 yards, Dave. 25 yards for Dotson. It's at 7-1.
Fire that up. He scored last week.
He scored last week, so maybe he's coming coming to life. So Jahan Dotson, 7-1 odds, 25 yards. And then we'll hit this Baltimore and Buffalo game. The low hanger receivers there. This is an interesting little ticket, actually. The lone hanger receivers. Let's see. Curtis Samuel's 12-1. Aguilar's 12-1. Dawson Knox 14-1. Likely 37 and a half to 1. Bateman 45.5 to 1. No Ty Johnson yet. We're still waiting on the availability of the other kid who got hurt back there. His name's escaping me. I've been Ray Davis. I've been playing him all year. His name should not be escaping me. Except I saw, Dave, that 1 out of 4 people will have dementia in the next 10 years. How about that?
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
I believe it.
A quarter of the population with dementia. That's insane.
Yes, it is.
Let's see here. So Curtis Samuel would be my pick. We'll go back to the well with him. And for 25 yards, he's at plus 250. All right, so if we do that for a round robin, and we do, let's just do $1.50 legs. A total of $7.50 will win us $2,263 on the following. Smith-Schuster for 25 yards receiving. Eckler, he's trending the right way. Eckler for 40 plus receiving. The seasoned veteran against the Lions, so let's give the ball to the veteran. Jahan Dotson, who seems to be waking up and maybe trending the right way, at a big odds payout of 7-1 for him for 25 yards. And then Curtis Samuel, who has been getting the ball. His offensive coordinator is his former coach with the Carolina Panthers, and a nice target for Josh Allen, plus 250 for him. All right, we'll fire that in. A total of $7.50 wins $2,263. If we get 3 of those 4, then we'll get about $250 on a constellation prize for that. All right, easy enough.
The art of making a ticket.
Art of making a ticket. Let's cue up our 2 touchdown sounder. Our touchdown madness today includes
Johnny. 4 weeks. 20 papers, that's $2 plus tip.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
Hey, give me 2.5 and a Rick Bell.
It's a jungle out there. You got to look out for number 1, but don't step at number 2.
Utah, give me 2.
And Jimmy 2 times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like...
I'm going to go get the papers,
All right, 2 touchdown madness includes, let's see here. We have Kareem Hunt and Dalton Schultz, and then we'll pick guys on the same team with the Commanders. We'll take Zacchaeus and Brian Robinson Jr. All right, so if we get 1 from each game, we'll get a nice little payout there for a touchdown madness. Somehow, if all 4 of those hit, then it'll be a fantastic evening. All right, for me, other 2 touchdown chances go to Xavier Worthy. I think you can throw Noah Gray into the mix as well at a nice 70-1 payout. He's going to be worth having a ticket with somebody. I saw if you Dave with a tight end ticket. I'm going to have to go ahead and play that as well. And then 2 touchdowns for the later game for me. I'm going to have a ticket on McLaurin, Daniels, again, Brian Robinson Jr. And then, you know what? You got to throw Montgomery on that list just because we think he might not play as much. That's why you do it. All right, Dave, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to go kind of similar with you. I'm going to go Worthy and Collins in the early game. And then I'm going to go another dueling wide receiver, 2 touchdowns with McLaurin and Jameson Williams.
Can both of these games get to overtime?
Yeah, I could see a way that they could. Yeah, especially the late game.
Quarterback most likely to throw an interception today.
Oh,
I think it's Stroud.
Yeah, it's definitely Stroud.
Okay. I'm gonna have to play the overtimes just on a random ticket here. I'm gonna have to play all 4 to be honest. Just because that's an interesting way to do things. Let's see here. And the best bets for today for me, let's see. I'll look for the Kansas City team points. I'll look for Pat Mahomes over 1.5 touchdowns. I'll look for the Worthy yards and a touchdown. I'll look for the Stroud rushing yards for 40 at a big payout. I'll jump on board Nick Athens' suggestion of Kareem Hunt over 31.5 rushing yards. I'll look at the receiving yards for all the low hangers for the Chiefs. P. Ryan, Noah Gray, Smith-Schuster, probably even Hunt, probably even Pacheco in that regard as well. And then in the later game, actually give me Worthy over 1.5 rushing yards as well. Later game, actually Worthy's 4.5. Later game, Jameson Williams is over 1.5 rushing yards. So those are both wide receivers going over their rushing yards. Robinson is 60 yards rushing. I'll take a chance at that. We'll take a chance on the receiving end of things on Eckler. Maybe his rushing, like Nephew Dave said, not the worst price for 40 yards for him. And Daniel's passing yards seems a little light as well. All right, Dave, what do you got for your picks?
All right, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the Washington parlay today. We're gonna do the Washington team to cover the spread at plus 8.5 over here on my side. Jaden Daniels over 298.5 passing and rushing yards combined. Throw him in there to score today as well. Terry McLaurin for 50 plus receiving yards. 3 receptions for Eckler. I think he can do that. And then we'll pair that off, Steve. We'll throw you a little curveball here. Alex Ovechkin for 4 shots on goal tonight. And the Caps minus 1.5 puck line.
Nice. I took Ovechkin to score a goal with 3 other players today because I had a goal scorer profit boost. So I took him. I'll take Nick Suzuki for the Montreal Canadiens. I'll take McDavid for Edmonton, and I'll take Kucherov for the Lightning. How about that?
I like it.
So all 4 of those players wrapped in. I won't even tell you my hockey team goals because those are a wasteland at the moment.
Oh, that's just awful.
What the puck is going on is definitely the motif for hockey right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Our program airs every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our National Hockey League coverage. What the puck is going on. And I think we have a full slate. Let me take a look at the Monday schedule here. And we have a full schedule today of NHL hockey. You want to go through those real quick?
We can.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that. But Monday, let me just fast forward to January the 20th. Oh, yes, Dave. And we have afternoon action as well going into the evening. In fact, we'll have a game live with us with St. Louis and Vegas on Monday. The Monday slate is early to later, and we have games starting staggered throughout the day. So great Martin Luther King Day for the NHL. San Jose is at Boston at 1 p.m., 3 o'clock Minnesota at Colorado. Then we have Buffalo at Seattle at 4, St. Louis at Vegas at 6, Tampa is at Toronto at 7:30, Columbus and the Islanders, Carolina and Chicago, Winnipeg is at Utah, and the late game, Pittsburgh at the Kings, 10:30. So a good full slate for Monday and Tuesday, a good look-ahead slate as well with 8 games, including our Capitals at Edmonton. How about that?
Oh, that'll be a good one.
That'll be a good one. Sunday NHL tomorrow, just 3 games. We can talk about those tomorrow. We'll have time. And then today, just give me a quick who you might like and who you might not like or pass. Devils and Flyers. Early game, 12:40, Dave. I'll pass.
I'll pass as well.
3 o'clock, Bruins at Ottawa. I'll pass on this one.
I will take the Bruins.
The Stars are at the Avalanche, 4:10 Eastern Standard Time. I will pass on that game.
Pass as well.
6:10 face off with the Ducks and Panthers. You got to figure the Panthers are a good play. The Ducks have been getting throttled here on the East Coast. So I did not play the Panther team goals. I probably should. Minus 400 is the money line in that game. But Panthers team goals, which I won't end up playing, but I should have.
Yeah. Give me it's Panthers or nothing there.
The Maple Leafs are in Montreal. I'll take the Montreal team goals over 2.5.
I'm going to give the Canadians a shot.
My Jets are due to have a high-scoring output. I think they can do that against Calgary, who's been stumbling on the road here. Over 3.5 goals for the Jets as they host the Flames for me.
Yeah, give me the Jets.
Give me the Capitals to have some goals against the Penguins, who are on the back-to-back tonight at the Cap Center or the MCI Center or whatever they call that place now. But the Caps team goals for me over Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Steve, I'm going to take the Caps taking advantage of Pittsburgh on the back-to-back.
I'll pass on the Red Wings and the Lightning in Tampa.
Give me Tampa.
I'll take the team goals for Columbus at the Rangers this evening, over 2.5 goals for my Blue Jackets at New York.
Yep, I would even play a Columbus money line.
And I think you can probably even get away with the Ranger team goals, as they at least seem like they've woken up out of their slumber of scoring anyway. Islanders and the Sharks will be a pass for me, although you can probably pick on the Sharks anytime you want. I won't do it with the Islanders.
No, definitely not with the Islanders, Steve.
I'll pass on Vegas. They've been kind of stumbling a little bit here lately. They blew a game. Now I'm thinking of Colorado blowing it against Edmonton. But I don't trust Vegas at the moment. They're not scoring a ton of goals. Chicago seems to be playing a little bit better, at least scoring a little bit more. So I'll pass on that.
Give me the under in that game.
All right, interesting. The Wild are at the Predators. Probably an under for that game, but I'll pass.
Give me Minnesota on the money line.
I'm not so sure why the Blues are an underdog at Utah. I'll take the Blues team goals in Utah tonight.
I'll take a Blues money line.
I'll stick with the Kings. They had a good offensive output the other night. I think they'll do the same. Give me over 3.5 goals at the Kraken tonight.
I'll agree with you.
And then the final game, Vancouver and Edmonton, late night game. I'll pass on that.
Give me Edmonton. Probably, if not the hottest, one of the hottest teams right now. They are on a absolute run.
Yeah, they came back against Colorado the other night. That's the one. Colorado was down. We're up 2-0 out of the gate. Final score 4-3 Edmonton. All right. Dave, I think that does it. Got college basketball starting in a minute. Got some NHL. Got some NBA later. And, of course, our Texans and Chiefs game in 4.5 hours. So we will reconvene tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. So not our usual 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. start now that we're later in the playoffs and just have the 2 games. We will earn our sleep a little bit more. Well, the fact is we've only been doing 1 show in previous years on the playoff weekends. You're getting 2 shows. So we'll rest a bit and come on at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. All right, Dave, I'll text you off the air and we'll make a plan for the weekend, all right?
Sounds good.
I'll see what you're up to with your game this evening. All right, let's cue up the Pie Tasters again. If you are in Texas, look up the Pie Tasters. Let me see if I can get their schedule real quick before we get off the air here. This is the Round Robin on the Deep End Broadcasting Network. I am Stephen Murray, and we thank you for tuning in all morning long. Let's see, the Pie Tasters were in San Antonio last night. Tonight they are in Austin, Texas at Kick Butt Coffee, and tomorrow in Dallas, Texas at Sundown at Granada. All right, guys, enjoy the games. Good luck. See you in the morning.